Good evening and welcome to San Antonio, Texas, where the Trinity Tigers look to extend on their winning streak, especially over the Bulldogs. Visiting in from Texas Lutheran, the 15th ranked Tigers hosting the 25th ranked Texas Lutheran Bulldogs. And it was an offensive bombardment yesterday from the Tigers as they only needed 7 innings to put away Texas Lutheran, as the Bulldogs have had a rough going since moving into the D3Baseball.com top 25, losing to Mary Hardin Baylor on Tuesday night, and then 14-3 falling behind 4 homers here from the Tigers. The wind was blowing out to left, as it is again today. Could see some offensive bombardment. We'll see what TLU has in their lineup as they start off with a very similar, in fact, it's the exact same lineup as yesterday. Blake Capadona will start us off in left field, and the catcher, Holden Philippus, will be batting second. Batting third, the third baseman, Randy Huerta. He has been a Tiger killer in the past. Joe Jimenez, he's killing everybody, a national leader amongst everybody in Division III. He's batting cleanup. Tyler Post over at first base batting fifth. He went yard in the first inning yesterday. The designated hitter, Alex Sanchez, bats sixth. Eric Vasquez plays second. He bats seventh. Blade Strelzik, All-SCAC name MVP. He's in right field batting eighth. Peyton Dahl, center field, batting ninth. And on the mound for the Tigers is going to be Jack Martinez. For TLU is going to be Zach Longshore. And we'll get a good look here at the Tiger lineup as well. And we'll get another look at it right before the Tigers come to bat. As you can see, the defensive positioning here for the Tigers. And we are just about ready to go. Here from San Antonio to be Jake Martinez on the mound for the Tigers. And as always, joined by Luke Terry. And Luke, you were on the call last night. Any thoughts about what to expect here tonight?
Yeah, Josh, well, you mentioned that offensive bombardment that the Tigers came out with really jumped on the Bulldogs and starting pitching. The best starting pitching in that rotation, and Birch, who had last night faced a couple of situations, given up some career highs, things that he had never done before. 7 earned runs, the first time that ever happened to him in a career. And we talk about the production of this Tiger lineup that we saw on the screen briefly, but we can't go without mentioning the performance of Joseph Shavana, because you think back to that first inning, you mentioned that Tyler Post home run. It looked like early on we were going to have a game where both offenses put up a ton of runs. There were several times throughout the course of the game where this Bulldog offense was able to do a nice job getting several runners on base. You talk about Jimenez, he was a threat in the lineup last night, but Shavana, time and time again after that first inning, were able to keep them in check and shut them down when they did seem to have something going.
And that duty now falls to Jack Martinez, and you saw his numbers there early on. The youngster really been a very positive addition here to this Trinity bullpen. It's you look around the entire conference, the bullpens, the starting pitching, there's not a lot of numbers that jump out at you. But you also look and you realize it's one of the best hitting conferences in the entire country. So that's to be expected. And speaking of good hitting conferences, and stepping in is going to be Capadona here. I mean, his batting average .325, but his on base, 17 walks on the season, bumped the on base percentage to .427, and that's what you need out of a leadoff hitter. And first pitch swinging for Capadona, and he's going to smoke that one into left field and off the wall. Evan McDonald, trouble playing it, and that is a leadoff first pitch double for Blake Capadona opposite field, and he just misses the home run. As you can see, this one hitting just off underneath, above the NCAA Regionals part of the wall, below the yellow line. And we said it at the beginning, that wind blowing out to left just as it was yesterday. I saw a lot of those five home runs on the day, 1 from Tyler Post, 4 from the Tigers. And I saw quite a few of the home runs there yesterday, and a lot of them look like lazy fly balls where the left fielder should not have had to move at all, and every one of them carried up and out of the park. So see if the early offense strikes as it did yesterday. It was 4-3 after 1 between these two teams. As Martinez finally gets one to the glove of Tyler Pettit.
I think you're absolutely right about the fact that that ball right there again seemed to find that jet stream as the wind carried it off the bat. Didn't think that that one had any chance to go as far as it did, but in either circumstance, a really good sign for Cappadona, who went 0 for 3 last night, wasn't very productive in that leadoff spot, but to have him not only on board, but on second base right here is a huge start, as it was Philippus Huerta Jimenez in post, of course, who did the most damage in this offense last night.
Philippus, his on-base percentage for the year, it's okay. It's .510. He's getting on base every other at bat, and that or every other plate appearance. That is just ridiculous at this stage of the season. I mean, we are, this game tonight, a game tomorrow, a 3-game series next weekend, and then we're into the SCAC tournament, and he's still got an on-base percentage over .500. And this TLU offense, we know it's going to be good every year in and year out. But having guys with the OBP just at .510 at this point in the year is just absolutely silly, and he's got a runner on second to do something with. And Martinez coming back in with a breaking ball, just missing, and the count now, I believe, 3-2 as we look to get our stats rolling.
But early on in the game yesterday, I think Philippus really illustrated what it is that he brings to the plate. It's a great plate discipline, as we've seen here, laying off a really close pitch, that breaking ball that Martinez was able to throw on the inside part of the plate. I think back to that first at-bat of the game yesterday, he laid off several pitches, not just one, but 2 or 3 that were right around the zone, ultimately walking in that one. It's something that we see out of Tyler Pettit all the time, just catchers demonstrating their great knowledge of the strike zone when they're up the plate.
And Martinez, with that wind blowing, you can hear it in your speakers, you can see it on the field, losing his hat. Not that he's ever done that before, but he gets the strikeout, and a big strikeout, getting the first out. That's going to be huge. Randy Huerta, 289 on the year, but don't look at those numbers and have any idea. He has killed Trinity in years past. And that one falling in just in ball 1.
Yeah, and that one looking a little bit more inside than the breaking ball that Philippus got in that previous at-bat, but maybe missing just a little bit upstairs.
And that one also upstairs. Now a 2-0 count. And one of the things that it may not be as obvious to everybody watching at home, you give up that first pitch double, and now you're pitching, out of the stretch to the entire rest of the lineup, unless somebody's able to bring around Cappadona from second. And so, it changes the pitcher. It changes their approach. They may not be as comfortable. A lot of guys really aren't from this position. And so Martinez, with that first out strikeout, really doing a great job, and that's going to be smoked into the gap, and that will score a run. TLU back on top again, and McDonald having a little bit of trouble bringing that one around. And Huerta, just seems like every time he plays Trinity, he puts up huge numbers and goes down and gets that one. Good pitch location there from Martinez, but not much he could do with it. And then McDonald just giving way to Ezra Gore in center field. I thought maybe he had slipped, but he just ducked down as Gore had picked that one up off the hop. And now you really hit the tough part of the lineup against anybody this year, and it's Joe Jimenez. 384 on the season, 61 RBI, 14 home runs. Just video game numbers here at this point, even for Division III.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think if you're a member of this Tiger staff, of this rotation, you paid close attention to what happened in the game last night, and you understand what you can afford to do in this at-bat right here. You can pitch him down, you can pitch him away, and that's just about it. First 2 at-bats in yesterday's game for Jimenez resulted in doubles. They were almost identical balls that he batted into play down that left field line. But they were both on pitches that stayed up and in on his hands. He does a really, really nice job of pulling those through close to his body, making sure that he gets his barrel out in front of the plate. And I think that has translated, you can tell, because of the 14 home runs that he has on the year. But right now, a good start from Martinez on the mound. that changeup at the bottom of the zone, coming back with that breaking ball down and away, and another one gets the most difficult hitter in this lineup swinging out in front of it.
It's a 1-0 lead here on the Randy Huerta RBI double after Blake Capadonna doubled on the game's first pitch. That'll bring us to Tyler Post. He went opposite field, much like Capadonna did on the first pitch. He went opposite field yesterday in the first inning, hitting a 2-run bomb on what I think, respectably could be called a lazy fly ball that just got up in the jet stream and carried, and Trinity had quite a few of those as well. Trinity hit 4 home runs. There might have been one of those 4 that would have been a home run on a normal night. And this one chopped over to third, the play made, and throw over to Vonderhaar at first. Mets will retire the batter Post. And all things considered, what a fantastic start here from Martinez. And to get one more look over at the ground out to Mets. Played it very easily. And the Tigers are through a half inning, only trailing 1, and we'll see what the offense has when we come back. Welcome back. As we head to the bottom of the first, you get a lineup for the Tigers. MJ Metz, you saw him over at third base with that last out of the inning. He'll bat first. Colt Harris over at second base, batting second. Ezra Gore in center field. Brian Shaw batting cleanup today over in right. Christian Holloway is the game's DH. Tyler Pettit once again behind the plate. In left field, it's going to be Evan McDonald, Jack Vonderhaar over at first, and Michael Montreza will be your shortstop. Tigers with a little bit of change, but it's not really too unexpected as they have really floated about a 12-man lineup all season long.
Yeah, and it makes sense considering the fact that the Bulldogs putting out on the mound a lefty, a young one, mirroring the option from this Tiger pitching staff, coaching staff. Zach Longshore will go for the Bulldogs here in Game 2. We talked a lot last night about this rotation. In fact, they have 4 guys that have thrown 20 or more innings on the year. Obviously, we saw their number 1, their veteran junior right-hander in Birch last night. And then there's a big drop-off. Longshore's thrown, as you can see, 37 innings on the year. It's a big discrepancy. And we'll see if the Tiger lineup here, a bunch of veteran hitters and a bunch of right-handed hitters, can take advantage of the young lefty.
Yeah, you see almost a strikeout per inning. So he's going to probably need some of that. I think, that was one of Martinez's big traits in that first inning was he got 2 big strikeouts and then a lazy ground out. So if pitchers in this game, with the wind blowing the way that it is, I think if they can get big strikeouts, I think it's going to really help them control and dominate the pace of this game, but also really keep up the batters just kind of frustrated. Because I think a lot of these guys, after seeing what they saw yesterday, are looking to go up today and see what they can get. It's one of those things where you don't try to overthink it. You want to have your approach at the plate. But I think a lot of guys are seeing this win today just going like, ooh, maybe today's the day I can hit a couple out. And Metz yesterday was one of the guys that hit one out. And there's another ball off the plate, and it's going to be a quick 2-0 count here for 3-0 count now for Metz. We believe. We'll see what the ump throws up after this pitch. It's called strike. I believe it is 3-1 now, so we'll double check if he puts the signal up. But Metz on the year doing very well, leading the Tigers, having a fantastic senior season, and mentioned, as Brian Yanselson did yesterday, senior weekend, and they honored the parents here before the game. And that'll be a 5-pitch walk here from Longshore, and that'll put the leadoff runner aboard as MJ Metz will trot down to first.
And it mirrors his first at-bat of the game yesterday. His first 2 at-bats of the game, actually. I have to imagine that this pitching staff is entirely cognizant of what Mets can do at the plate. And you talked about the approach that they need to have in this one, trying to strike hitters out. But I think Longshore also illustrated right there that he's going to try and keep the ball down. We talked about the fact that it was really jumping out of the ballpark, aided by that wind that's blowing out to left field. We talked a little bit about that Tyler Post home run. MJ Metz himself hit one that floated up there. So trying to keep the ball down, forcing these hitters to hit it on the ground, line drives at head level, is going to be really, really key for both pitching staffs today.
And another member of the Tigers who has been home run happy as of late, Colt Harris, stepping in. Had the big 2-run shot yesterday that kind of calmed some nerves after the Tigers fell behind 3-0 early, and that propelled them as first 2 of 14 in a row. TOU up 1-0 here, bottom of the first. And we're trying to get the stats rolling and injected into the system. And all I need to do is just ask about it again, and there they are. So 1-0 for the Bulldogs. And Colt Harris, sophomore, who has been electric here for the Tigers. And is it possible to have a quiet 31 RBIs on the season and kind of be one of the team leaders? If it is, I think he fits that description.
Yeah, I think you're right about that, especially considering how or when he appeared in games this season. I know back at that start, that first couple of weekends actually, he wasn't an everyday hitter in the lineup. So to be up there and surpass that 30 RBI mark this season, considering the fact that he starting games, being inserted into that lineup a couple of weekends in, incredibly impressive.
So we got Metz at first and the full count pitch to Harris. And Longshore just bringing it straight through. And he'll get the strikeout, and there's one down. So you mentioned it, 37 innings on the year, and now he's got 38 strikeouts. That'll give way to Ezra Gore.
But that really seemed to be the standard for those 4 guys that we talked about. As MJ Metz will take second base standing up right there. We talked also a lot about his speed on the base paths. Both of these guys that you see on the screen right now, Metz and Gore, 2 very different looking guys. One at 6'5", Ezra Gore standing in the batter's box at 5'8" or so. But both of them incredible threats on the base paths. Metz, those long legs have really paid off for him this year. And on that one, just taking advantage, choosing a great pitch to run on, as that one was in the dirt.
And Metz is going to take off for third, and he'll have that one uncontested. So the first one might have been a pass ball or wild pitch. I believe it was ruled a wild pitch. That one is a straight steal for Metz. And as you mentioned, those speed on the base path has really helped, and honestly, both of these teams are very good at it. TOU up amongst the leaders in stolen bases around the country. And Gore slams that one up through the middle. It's going to be snagged by Vasquez, but it will work just as well as a sacrifice for Ezra Gore, as Metz, with that stolen base, moving himself into scoring position on this ground out. And a great job by Vasquez to stay down on it. Makes the easy throw over, but it is 1-1. And Metz coming around to tie it. We'll hear from MJ Metz after the end of this inning as we continue our senior day interviews that Brian Yancelson did last week or over the past week, asking the Tiger seniors about their favorite moments here on campus. And with the game ending at 7 innings yesterday, we didn't get a chance to get to MJ. He would have been our 6th interview of the day, and so we'll pick him up here at the end of the first inning. And then we've got 6 more, as Schaub will put that one over to third, and Huerta will make a nice play to end the inning, but 2 teams square at 1 as we get another look at Schaub's bullet here. And good defense early on from both teams, but especially here from both Vasquez and Huerta as they make some pretty tough plays look routine. And we'll hear from MJ Metz, and we'll be back in a bit.
My favorite memory at Trinity has to be the playoff runs that we've had, especially encapsulated by my freshman year winning SCACs and dogpiling in Cleveland. It was an awesome memory with those guys, such a special group. Would definitely won't ever forget that. What I'm going to miss here from Trinity most is definitely the guys. I mean, we've developed such a good bond, and these are my best friends, so definitely going to miss them as well as the coaches and just the people at Trinity in general. Saying thanks, I definitely want to say thanks to my parents, Mike and Paige, and my sister, Cragen. They've put up with a lot and have supported me through thick and thin and have given me unconditional support and love, so I really appreciate that. And just happy to have come to Trinity and experienced this whole thing, and definitely grateful that they allowed that. So.
Welcome back for the top of the second. Trinity and Texas Lutheran, two ranked teams in the top 25 of the Division III baseball, the D3Baseball.com poll. Pretty much the gold standard, I would say. There's a couple of others out there, but the D3Baseball.com poll has been around for so long now that I think most people just kind of gravitate towards it. And we are at the 6, 7, and 8 spots. It'll be Sanchez, Vasquez, and Strelzik here for TLU. And the Bulldogs, as you can see, with the white pants, and the white and black tops today, with the yellow trim, and the Tigers in their pinstripes. Really making for a classic uniform combination here between the two squads. Sanchez stepping in as the designated hitter today. Still looking for his first hit of the series.
Yeah, and you mentioned that it's 6, 7, 8 due up right here in the top of the second for the Bulldogs. But you look at the bottom half of the order, 6 through 9, for both of these teams, what those parts of the order were able to do last night, and it was entirely different stories for both of these sides, and it played a huge impact on the game yesterday for the Bulldogs. Just one hit out of these 4 spots in the order as Sanchez grounds that one over to Montreza. Make the nice strong throw over to Vonderhaar to retire the first out here. But on the other side of the things, all 4 Tigers in this similar position exited the game with hits. They had 5 as a group. It was really instrumental in the victory yesterday as they turned that lineup over for MJ Metz, who was hitting at the top. Obviously hit that 3-run home run that added even more insurance late in that game.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously these are 2 really good teams, and really good teams are going to have guys 1 through 5, and you see it everywhere amongst, especially Division III baseball. Even average teams have really good 1 through 5 hitters. And so your good teams, your great teams, they can go 1 through 7, 1 through 8, 1 through 9. Some teams can go run through 12 and have 3 guys on the bench show up at any given day and, pinch hit and, spot start and do those types of things. And those are really the difference makers. And so when you look at TLU struggles throughout the season, you look at especially the last 2 games, if they can get everybody on the team kind of generating some offense and not really go into we had a strong first inning and then we had a weak second and we had a strong third and then we had a weak fourth. If they can just keep generating some offense and putting up cricket numbers every inning, the mental part of the game starts to take effect on the opposing team. Like, hey, we can't even put up a 0 in an inning against these guys. They're doing great. NCAA is very capable of doing that. The bottom of this lineup can still hit. And it's just a matter of whether or not they can get going again. Both of these teams, this series is important. You want to get the number 1 seed for the conference tournament. Centenary with another win today. It looks like they've pretty much kind of moved themselves into that 3 seed. 2 teams struggled against Centenary's number 1 pitcher. The only losses in conference have been to their pitcher. And you want to kind of avoid that in game 1. And so TLU, this is a must-win game for them. And then tomorrow is a must-win game. for Trinity, it's a must-win game, but you've also got tomorrow. So, TOU's bottom half of the lineup really does need to step up today. And Vasquez now batting with a runner on. And he swings heavy through that one.
Yeah, but something that you talked about right there, those innings where you walk away with 0 runs, you have one good inning, one off inning. That's something that the Tigers have been really, really successful at avoiding, especially in some of their more recent outings. You look at the game last night and that line score where they only came up to hit 6 times, but they scored runs in 5 of those innings. They put up 4 in the bottom of the first. So they're not just crooked numbers in every inning. They've put up some monstrous innings as well. Then you look at other aspects of what you talked about, must-win games. Talked about the pitching staffs. You had Birch throw for this squad yesterday, and then you had a couple more guys that I don't think you want to use in night one, especially when you end up only playing 7 innings. And then on the flip side, Shavana being able to really figure things out, battle early on in that game, and then pitch to contact to allow himself to throw the full 7 innings, get another complete game, the 3rd of his year, and save the bullpen to really allow yourself all of the options here in Game 2 and potentially in Game 3 as well is absolutely huge.
Yeah, it gives you a lot of options, especially for this game. Depending on how this game starts early on, coaching staff could choose to let Martinez roll for a while, or they could choose to say, hey, we think we can get it right now, but we got to shut it down right here, and we can bring in a lot of the bullpen guys. Whereas I think TLU's basically got to say, hey, I don't know what it's going to take, but we need you to go out there and be a dominant pitcher today. And strike 3 looking, and Vasquez not liking that one, but he will have a seat, and there'll be 1 down in the inning for Blade Strelzik. And Strelzik with a runner on. Oh, I'm sorry. Sanchez grounded out on this inning. There are 2 outs. Vasquez walked, and that was Strelzik batting. Now we are to the 9 spot, and this is Dahl. So apologies from me on that one, as we are 2 down here in the inning. You see Martinez maybe a little too concerned with Vasquez over there at first, but you don't want to put a runner into scoring position with 2 outs. A base hit will typically bring around a decent runner with 2 down in an inning, so you can still understand the concern. I don't think he's throwing over there to necessarily get out of the inning. I think he's just over there trying to make sure that don't give up any freebies, similar to what Metz was able to take and put himself in a position to score, because he wouldn't have scored had he not stolen the bases. That went into right field, and I think that's kind of case in point. The runner is going to be held at third, or held at second even, not even making it to third just yet.
Yeah, and a really nice play. Brian Schaub coming in, getting to that ball quickly. Surprising not to see Vasquez pushing for third right there, especially with the change in positioning. Schaub usually out there in left field for the Tigers, not an everyday right fielder, but maybe not in the scouting report for Game 2 of this series. Either way, not wanting to risk it. Didn't look from that replay like Vasquez got a good jump off the bat with 2 outs here in the top of the second. But you think about the fact that Martinez was checking over there at first base, and you think back to yesterday's game, the fact that Joseph Shavana was able to catch someone a little too far off second base, get him in a rundown, and steal an out in a situation where otherwise the Bulldogs are in great shape to scratch across a couple of runs. It makes sense that they're trying to apply the pressure on a team that has been prone and shown that they want to steal bases.
I believe they come in leading the conference in stolen bases, and they're up amongst the national leaders as a team. It's a team that runs really well. And so kind of expect maybe that slow down pace to the game a little bit here from Martinez. He's going to start to vary up his delivery approach, his delivery style. He's going to step off like that. It's a lot of minor things that kind of make the base runner stay off pace and not have that jump.
Absolutely, and it's much different than what we saw out of Shavana yesterday. Shavana, someone that loves to get on the mound, work really, really quickly when he's on there, and he thrives, absolutely thrives when batters refuse to take time to step out, trying to disrupt his timing.
Capadonna with a big swing.
But Martinez really the exact opposite of that. Going to work at his own pace no matter what. And that's something that can be afforded to him when he really slows things down the way that he does. But either way, going back to a point that you made in the top of the first inning, a little bit of pressure that was applied early on, kind of questioning how do young pitchers respond to that type of situation. I think, if anything, what we've seen out of Jack Martinez is that he thrives in situations where there's a little bit of trouble out there.
And he's good at escaping jams. He gets the fly ball from Capadonna, who laced that earlier for a double on the game's first pitch. Put it in the same spot, but Martinez did a pretty good job of putting that one a little bit further out over the right-hand side of the plate. And not much Capadonna could do with that one. Lazy fly ball out to McDonald. And we've played 1.5. Still tied at 1. And we'll be back for the bottom of the second in just a bit. Be the 5, 6, 7 hitters here for the Tigers in the second. Christian Holloway to lead us off. He'll be followed by Tyler Pettit and Evan McDonald. Holloway, 338 on the season. He's first pitch swinging into center field, and that will be the first Tiger hit of the evening. And Coach Scannell changing up the lineup here, going with Holloway at DH. And first pitch inside out on that one. Just puts it out into center field. Leadoff man aboard once again for the Tigers.
Yeah, not a bad pitch from Longshore right there. I think he did exactly what he wanted to. Flippus at catcher today again for the Bulldogs. Had his glove set up right where that baseball was headed. But Holloway doing a nice job waiting back on that breaking ball, seeing it all the way deep into the zone. Puts a nice swing on it to drive it back up the middle.
Tyler Pettit hitting .365 on the season. He went the first 2 weeks of the year struggling to get aboard. And has really turned it around. Kind of turned into that Tyler Pettit that we saw last year and the year before. Just putting the bat on the ball. He can be a home run threat. He can hit for, the base hit bloopers when you need them. And then, he's pretty solid behind the dish as well. So, there's quite a few really good catchers in this conference, and there always have been. But I think Tigers are doing nothing wrong here with having Tyler Pettit as their backstop, and then having Lazara as a first year who's his backup, who's also been doing very, very well. Defensively, I think he still has a bit of growth to do to catch up to where Tyler Pettit is, but he's getting there pretty quickly. And there's a chopper foul.
Yeah, but Pettit at this level, and I think obviously understandable as he's a transfer coming from just down the street at the University of the Incarnate Word, really illustrates that in his defensive play. He's great back there, stealing pitches, stealing strikes with his work, with his glove. He frames the baseball as well as any other catcher in the conference as he sends that one out to right center field.
And this might end up being a double play, but the throw coming all the way in from Dahl, he had way more time than that, but I'm going to guess that throw was taken by the wind as we watch this replay here. So I don't think he overrushed it. Seemed like he got pretty good setting on it, but that throw way up the line could have had Holloway, who was almost halfway to third by the time he realized he needed to get back. So one down now for Evan McDonald, 375 on the season. It's pretty solid for somebody who's only been giving some spot starts and some random pinch hit at bats. It's hard to keep that batting average up when you don't get to swing the bat away every day.
I think one of the most difficult things about trying to keep that batting average up and not getting the opportunity to step into the box every single day and every single game is Holloway looked to take off, but faking out Philippus behind the plate right there as he heads back to first. Yeah, hard to really get a feel for the strike zone if you're Evan McDonald, but that's something that I think he has illustrated when he's come up to the plate. He's never a guy that swings at pitches that are wildly out of the zone, and he's taking pitches like that are right there, could go either way depending on who's home plate umpire that given day.
Very good eye for the ball. Another Division I transfer. So sort of what you would expect. I mean, those are the types of guys, sometimes we'll get guys that transfer because, hey, I've been hurt the last 2 years. But I think mentally they approach the game in a different style to where, things like that an injury is not going to prevent you from not being able to see balls and strikes when you're up at the plate. And he just kind of brings that different approach. As Jack Vonderhaar steps in, 306 on the year, 3 home runs, OPS near 1,000. 23 RBIs and 23 runs, and a lot of that has been done, as we talked about in the top half of the order. He's batting in the 8th spot today. A lot of his production this year has come at the bottom half of the order. It hasn't necessarily been because he's been poor at the plate. It's just, where do you put a guy when you've got, Metz, Harris, Gore, Schaub, Pettit batting all year long? And so he's just kind of fallen down to the bottom half of the order for Trinity. And all he's done is just kind of sit back and produce very well from that bottom half spot. The first one was a strike. That one a breaking ball that, in my opinion, looked more like a strike than the first pitch, but that will go for ball 1. And baseball just has a way of evening out.
And I think that's really what's happened for Vonderhaar in his season this year. I remember early on in the campaign, he was hitting the ball as hard as anyone in this lineup, but very similar to some of the circumstances as there's a little bit of a collision over there at first base. Longshore opting to apply the tag, even though it looked like he had Vonderhaar beat out pretty cleanly. Not entirely sure what the decision or why that decision was made right there.
I think, if I'm just guessing, I'm going to guess that Longshore, as he was running over, lost sight of the bag, and instead of trying to finesse that and maybe get himself hurt and maybe get Vonderhaar hurt in the process, it was just something that might have been easier to try to just stick the glove out and make the tag. And then I think, the contact of two people running is what led to Vonderhaar falling over. We were able to see the replay on our other screen as this one's chopped back up the middle, and that will retire the inning. So Montrezl will ground out, and we're actually going to hear from Cade Momsen here in just a bit on the Senior Day tributes. But the Tigers leave a few aboard. They do get their first hit of the evening, and it is still 1-1 after 2. We'll be back in just a bit.
So my favorite memory here at Trinity in the baseball program was when Brandon Hance was acting like a dog. I think it was with Ryan Mans, and we got posted on a bunch of official Twitter baseball profiles. And then the thing I'm going to miss the most is just the people, honestly, especially the catchers. No offense to anyone in my class. I love you guys more than anything, but the catchers, we had to go through hell together. Blocking off the machine with Aroldis Chapman fastballs and curveballs. And then thank you, to my family, my friends who supported me through everything. Thank you guys so much. I went through a lot of adversity of injury, and I thank you guys for your perpetual support, and I couldn't have gotten here without you guys, so thank you.
Top of the third inning, and Philippus will stand in, batting second in the order. 0 for 1 today. Struck out in his first appearance against Martinez. First pitch swinging will be fouled out of play. And in between innings there, you saw the flag kind of wrapped around itself, but it didn't look like it was blowing very, very heavy. But you see the trees behind Martinez blowing. So still enough wind out there if you can get the ball up. I'd say if you get the ball up above the roof line of the Bell Center, you're going to get an extra 15 to 20 feet on any fly ball you put out towards left field. And that'll be fouled back. Now 1-2.
And a good job from Martinez in this at-bat right here. We talked already about Philippus up at the plate, what he's been able to do, the discipline that he showed. He earned a couple of walks yesterday. He was close in a full at-bat earlier today, but a couple of nice pitches right around the zone have forced him to pick up the bat, both yesterday and today, struggling to put it in play, and a couple of pitches that have been painted right on the edge of the strike zone have caught him looking.
So one down on a strikeout again, and that will bring up Huerta, who's double back in the first inning. Was the RBI TLU needed to jump out to an early 1-0 lead. As Rigor brought around Metz with a ground out in the bottom half of that first to tie us at 1. Here's a chopper back up the middle, and that'll be fielded and thrown over to first. And a nice job by, I believe it was Montrezl, covering from short. Yeah, doing a really good job of staying down on it. And Huerta, we talked about TOU's speed, and he almost legged that one out for an infield single. Joe Jimenez, 381 on the season. You see the crazy power numbers. Kind of an extension of what we've seen the last few years. And these numbers should not really be a surprise. I think his talents were kind of hidden just a bit with Tyler Cawley being in the lineup, being that big power guy for TLU, putting up the 15 to 18 home runs a year for the Bulldogs that he was doing the last couple. But Jimenez the last few years has shown some really good offensive strength. And this year, just a breakout year. He goes opposite field, and this one's going to carry and fall in right field as maybe Schaub got a little confused on it. And that'll be a single for Jimenez.
Yeah, not a huge surprise that this one drops in with the way the wind is affecting the ball today, I think both of us here in the booth expected that one to travel maybe a little bit further, but ultimately just dies right there just inside the foul line. A difficult ball in regards to plotting out your path. Don't want to run directly at it with the way that the wind has played this series. But ultimately that one, I'm assuming, not carrying as far back into play as Schaub thought it would out there in right field. But surprised, honestly, to see Jimenez only on first base right there.
He's going to steal second, or he's going to advance the second. So that one gets away from Pettit just a bit. And another smart play here for TLU, snagging the extra 90 feet. That one a wild pitch down in the dirt. Pettit did a pretty good job to bring that one back and have a shot at it, but Jimenez runs well. And really no surprise that he was able to beat the throw. Such a tough play for Pettit to have to go down. And one, he's got to backhand that into the batter in the left-hand batter's box and then come up throwing on that one. So 2 down, runner at second. And Tyler Post, who had his 7th home run of the season yesterday, unleashes on this one. Schaub's going back. He's got a little bit of room and just enough as he makes the play at the wall. Tyler Post almost connecting on his 8th home run of the year. Had a really good swing into it. And maybe that wind blowing just kept him from that. And the Tigers will head to the bottom of the 3rd. I'd say fortunate to be still tied at 1. We'll be back with the top of the order, Mets, Harris, and Gore, when we return.
Bottom of the 3rd here in San Antonio, and the top of the lineup due back up for the Tigers. MJ Metz standing in after a 5-pitch walk to start the day for the Trinity offense. Looking to mirror the start to yesterday's action, as he walked in 2 consecutive at-bats to start his evening, but falls behind 0-1 right there with that fastball down and away.
And Luke, we talked about game's not really what we expected, but also we didn't really know what to expect. We thought with the wind blowing as crazy as it was yesterday, we might see a little bit more offense today as well. But I think both Longshore and Martinez have done a really good job of keeping everything low and really preventing anything from having a big fly opportunity. And I think we both thought that Tyler Post got all of it when he had that one off the barrel, and for that one to stay in the park was a little surprising. We'll see if somebody blinks first and makes a mistake up in the zone somewhere, as all of these have been roughly below Metz's knees. And you can see the 3-1 count. I think even the strike that was called looked to be low and away.
Yeah, but I think both of these pitchers, especially cognizant of the guys that you can't afford to make mistakes when throwing to. For Longshore now, 2 walks, and I think he shows a little bit of frustration on the mound right there. a lot of nice pitches. I think he did exactly what he wanted to, but they weren't strikes. I think that's pretty simple to see, all of them down and away, pretty clearly down below the zone when you have a guy standing in at 6'5". I think you live with that, though. It's not a result that you want when he's leading off an inning. You don't have any outs that you can get ahead of him. But when you're limiting him to just that one bag, I think that's a positive, considering the fact that he swung it really well, hitting the ball the opposite way early this year. As that one softly grounded out to short. Jimenez, Vasquez connect up the middle for the nice double play. It doesn't hurt you at all in the end when you have a guy standing at first. It allows himself to pitch to contact right there and allows the defense to play well behind him.
Yeah, get another look at this 6-4-3 tailor-made double play. Jimenez doing a great job of staying down on it. The casual flip. And Vasquez with a quick turn. Textbook right there. And, you know, I mean, it's like you said. I mean, he didn't make the mistake to Mets. I mean, that he was frustrated by the result. But he didn't make a mistake to Mets. Mets is on first. Your job now is to not let Mets steal second and then steal third like he did the first inning. Because that's what allowed him to score when Gore came up the first time and had the RBI ground out. And that's why we're tied 1-1. So if you're Longshore, you do your job. You don't let Mets beat you. And then you come up and you keep the ball down low. Harris grounds it out. And your defense behind you is able to turn two. And it's basically as if you struck Mets out. 2-0 pitch goes for strike one. And Longshore really doing a great job of just, we kind of mentioned at the very top of the game, like, can these guys take control of the game enough? Can they get strikeouts at big moments? Can they keep the ball down low? Can they limit the big play mistakes? You give up a base hit here or there. You can leave runners on. You can even scatter, 12 to 15 hits in a game and still be okay. And that one's lifted, and we have to kind of wait on everything, but this one looks to be more of a pop-up that does drift out into Capodanno's range, and that will be a quick 1-2-3 inning for the Tigers. Longshore is kind of settling in now, and then we'll be back here with Sanchez, Vasquez, and Strelzik, 6-7-8 for the Bulldogs when we return, top of the fourth. We've got another senior tribute video. We'll be right back.
My favorite memory from my time at Trinity was our trip to the regional last year. Heading up to Minnesota with those guys was a really awesome experience, and one I'll definitely remember the rest of my life. What I miss the most about being at Trinity is definitely all the guys and the coaching staff. I've built so many great memories and relationships with these guys, and obviously carrying it forward, staying in touch and stuff like that, but not being with them every day is definitely be an adjustment. And I just say, to my family and friends, I just want to thank you guys for all the support. It's been a wild ride, my first few years and now transferring here and stuff. So, but, you guys have always been by my side and, have my back. So I just want to, thank you for all the support and throughout this journey. And I want to thank you very much again.
Through 3 innings, Texas Lutheran batting 4 for 13. It's a 308 clip. The Tigers batting just 1 for 9. It's a 111 clip. But we're tied at 1 as we head to the top of the 4th inning. And as we mentioned, 6-7-8, and Alex Sanchez 0 for 1 on the day. He grounded out to short in his first at-bat. Batting now 298 on the season. Swings over the top of that one. Great crowd out here. A lot of TOU fans making the trek over, just down I-10. These two teams really turning this into a rivalry. That one shot back up the middle, and that will sneak through for a base hit. Sanchez, leadoff single, now 1 for 2 on the day.
You mentioned in that last half inning that both of these pitchers seeming to settle in really, really nicely on the mound, kind of based on that condition that we talked about in the open, keeping the ball down low in the zone. I think the question now is, do these teams, both of these offenses, choose to react? Because I don't think it's a question as to whether or not they have the capacity to adjust And to hit off of this type of pitching, it's just based on the tendency of not only these two teams, but the conference as a whole to want to barrel up baseball's pull side. Do you make the adjustment? Are you willing to put the ball on the ground consistently, put it in play, and be satisfied with that, and live with the results? I think right here to start the inning, Sanchez obviously was going back up the middle, soft contact, but keeping on the ball on the ground, giving himself a chance, and now you have your leadoff runner on here in the top of the fourth.
Yeah, you've got the wind blowing out. You feel like maybe it should be a power hitter's game, but both teams trying to play maybe small ball to get some runs across, as Vasquez is going to be still 0 for 0 after a leadoff or a first at-bat walk, and now a sacrifice as he moves Sanchez over to second. And, I don't know if the two teams are looking at it going, maybe it's going to be a 2-1 type of game, but with how these two guys have been throwing through the first 3+ innings now, maybe you start to get in that mindset of like, maybe we can squeak out a 4-3 win here. Strelzik stepping in. He struck out looking back in the second and takes for strike one.
Yeah, but you go back to that last play. A nice job on the mound from Martinez, kind of all the way across the board. You saw Vasquez square around to bunt a couple of times in that at-bat as that one sneaks up and in, but Strelzik ducking out of the way, narrowly missing it. Vasquez in that previous at-bat squaring around a couple of times. Martinez doing a really nice job to continue to pitch in the strike zone, make sure that he takes advantage of the hitter that's giving himself up, get a good start to the inning, scratch one out, put one on the board, and now attack some hitters that you've already had success against right here in Strelzik.
And Strelzik down in the count now 1-2. You feel like the advantage might come to Martinez here. An intended wasted pitch. Now even the count at 2. And you got to be careful. You can't bury the pitch too much on a chase pitch, because if it does get away from Pettit, you've got a runner at third with only one down. So then the approach from Strelzik becomes if I can put anything onto the ground opposite side, or if I can put anything up in the air, there's a chance that I could sac fly or bring the guy over. Now the 2-2. On the ground. It'll be handled nicely by Harris, and they'll let the runner advance, but Tigers get the out. So as long as we don't see a wild pitch or a pass ball here, Martinez still able to get out of this inning with no damage done on the scoreboard, as that is the second out. That'll take us to Peyton Dahl. He did have a base hit as a single into right field in his first at-bat. Now 370 on the year. And that one right down Main Street for strike one.
Yeah, and a good job from Martinez right there. Now in his second time through the order against a guy that singled against him, as you already mentioned, in their first meeting here this evening. Starting him off with that breaking ball, dropping something in when I'm sure Dahl again is expecting fastball down the middle.
And that missed somewhere. And they're going to call a balk, I believe. Let's see a replay on that. I'm not seeing it before that. I don't know where it was. Well, we're back to the live play, and that one grounded over to Montreza, and Vondi keeps his foot on the bag, and we're out of the inning, but not before the damage is done. It was a balk called that allowed Sanchez to come all the way over and score, and it is 2-1 after 3.5. We'll be back in just a bit. bottom of the fourth, and it's going to be Brian Schaub to lead us off. 4, 5, and 6, 2 up for Trinity against Longshore, who has still looked very, very strong out there. He's only allowed one hit to 9 different batters. That one low in the zone, evens the count at 1. Schaub with 8 home runs on the season, getting number 8 yesterday. 14 a year ago. A guy that has made a huge impact here for the Tigers in his short Trinity career. And hard to imagine, since we've only seen him for a year and a half, that he's graduating in mid-May. Likely try to continue his career, looking around for maybe some D1 options as a grad student. Yeah, he put up some home run numbers for Richmond before he got here. Sure, there's somebody that could use a pretty strong bat in their lineup. And he comes up empty on this at-bat, and the 2-2 will get him swinging, and Longshore's got another strikeout. His second of the day.
And you talked about that one hit that this Tiger offense has to this point. But before that, just one strikeout. So a decent job up at the batter or in the batter's box for this offense up to this point. And standing in for the second time this evening, Christian Holloway, who had that one hit on the evening, sending the ball back up the middle. Arguably the best approach at the plate to this point in the game. He's someone that's illustrated a really nice approach, especially when considering the guy that he's facing, someone that's throwing down and away. Holloway, willing to drive the ball to the opposite field, someone that has the power to drive the ball out of here to the opposite field. But right now, with just that one hit, not very many base runners on the evening, just 3 walks that Longshore has issued to this point. Instrumental really for the bats to start to get going here in this one, especially after falling behind for a second time this evening.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be tougher and tougher for these Tiger hitters to get those bats going, because right now I'm just seeing Longshore gaining confidence with every pitch. Like even his misses, it looks like he's starting to become happy with them. I mean, he was upset when he walked Metz for the second time an inning ago. And I think that double play really sparked him, changed his fortunes, got him out of a jam that could have been again. And he has been on a roll since then. But even now, he is really happy. And I can understand the frustration there. That one looked like it might have caught the lower part, but it's going to be called a ball, and that'll run the count full. He's been really happy with his misses. You know, like if you watch a pitcher when they're, ball 1, ball 2, but when they get the ball back, they don't look frustrated. You know, they're hitting a spot that they want to hit. Maybe it's just off, and they're looking for somebody to change, and Holloway gets into this one. And going back and not coming up with it is going to be Capadonna. And you mentioned the opposite field strength. Don't need it. He's going to pull this one. And there it is. That one left up a little bit inside. Up over the top part of the upper fence. And Christian Holloway makes it 2-2.
You talk about Longshore being happy with his misses, but when you have a pitch like the one he had in that at-bat, you mentioned right there around the bottom of the zone that goes against you, and you ultimately end up giving up a home run, a solo shot that ties the game, that's something that can switch the fortunes around against you. You talked about the fact that double play up the middle in the past inning really helped him go one way, head in this direction, where he started to really exude confidence on the mound, was kind of showing a bunch of positive emotion, but really quickly things could change for him right here.
Yeah, I think not getting that 2-2 pitch, kind of maybe some of the momentum that he had from that double play, Maybe we're just imagining it, but it really did look like he gained a lot more confidence since that double play. But also, we'll see how he attacks Pettit here, because after that 2-2 pitch, that was really the first time he had shown any type of emotion after a pitch since that double play. When we had seen it kind of regularly through the first few, everybody's first at bat, he was kind of, I wouldn't fully say emotion on his sleeve, but, if he felt like it wasn't the right call, he kind of let us know that he didn't feel that it was the right call. Not egregiously, but you could tell. And that one kind of looked like he knew that it should have been a strike, and then he gives up the game-tying home run to Holloway. As Pettit pops this one up, it looks like it's going to stay in playable territory, post sliding over, and then I'll say with this wind, anytime you can make a play and get the out, that's going to be ending up going to be a good defensive play. As you see him drift back into the foul line, make the out. So 2 down for Evan McDonald. Also walked back in the second.
Ultimately, a nice response from Longshore against Pettit right there. Maybe missing on that last pitch, one up in the zone that Pettit ultimately couldn't find the middle third of, but it doesn't hurt Longshore, and it just really counts to come back and get that next out. Obviously, a young guy on the mound throwing here, down 1-0 in the series as a freshman. Huge circumstances, and even bigger in what is now a tie game through almost 4 full innings. I think if he can continue to throw the way that he did before that home run, kind of in between those two moments, that double play and that home run, two pretty clear markers where he was close to dominant. If he can find that, continue that, it would be absolutely huge for them here tonight. As you look at that pitch count, 62 pitches right now through, again, almost 4 full innings. Much better shape than Birch was in last night. Hopefully save the bullpen a little bit and continue to find a way to quiet these Tiger bats in the batter's box. But obviously a tough task against Evan McDonald, who shows a little bit of emotion or a little bit of character of his own as he wanders out of the batter's box, shaking his head, kind of letting Longshore know in this battle.
Now the 2-2. Left up and away. Wouldn't be surprised if he was looking to see if maybe he could get a chase out of him, but I don't think he intended to miss that far out. And now the count runs full. We already talked about McDonald having a pretty good eye. He walked back in the second. And the payoff pitch fouled off.
Yeah, and a really big hack from McDonald right there. The timing looked to be together. Longshore, that previous one, I think, as you mentioned, hit it right on the head, trying to get McDonald to chase. Something that McDonald doesn't want to do because he wants to take those big hacks. Guy that has power, but he has it to the pull side on a night when the wind is blowing out.
Rope that one through the left side and into left field. Evan McDonald now 1 for 1. He's been aboard both times. That's just a senior coming up big. He gets a spot start on Saturday night. He's on base both times. And pretty much what we've seen out of Evan McDonald all year. What he's doing tonight isn't surprising. It's not new. It's what he's done for the Tigers. And we talked about it early on too, as Vonderhaar steps in, runner on and 2 down. For the most part, both of these lineups are going to have, their 1 through 9 are going to be consistent. And then it's 10, 11, 12th guy, you've got 3 to 4 or 5 guys that you're like, hey, today I need you to go up there and go get me a couple of hits today. And both of these teams have that. And historically, they've had that for the past decade apiece. We've talked about this being a rivalry, and I think in order to have a rivalry, you have to have 2 teams that can both take as much as they win as many games as they lose. And this one's been pretty well split.
I think that's what makes last night's affair even more perplexing. This is the standard that we've become accustomed to seeing when these two programs step onto the same field. That's what we saw when they squared off last year. Saw them in a midweek game, a Tuesday night affair that didn't have any implications, but they come to play some of their best baseball when they're facing off against each other. It was a 2-1 midweek game with some young kids on the mound. I remember Alex Bin throwing as a true freshman. Just a tremendous experience. It's a game where these guys step up to the plate. They understand the weight of things. Clearly this weekend meaningful for SCAC standings, for what things will look like for each of these programs in the postseason, but it's more than that. This is the same type of energy that we'd expect, whether this is 2 weekends away from that postseason tournament or the first matchup, first series in conference play of the season.
Yeah, still a lot of work to do to kind of repeat last year's epic showdown. I know Trinity would love to get a revenge game against Texas Lutheran, who won on some defensive mishaps late in that game as Vonderhaar goes down swinging. We'll come back, continue talking about this series, this rivalry, and these two teams in just a bit. We'll have another senior tribute here in just a second, and you're watching Trinity and Texas Lutheran here from San Antonio in a back-and-forth affair. We'll be back.
My favorite memory from Trinity baseball has definitely been the Birmingham trip earlier this year. We got to go to a new state in Alabama, which I've never been before, and got some delicious food and played some great baseball. We got some pulled pork sandwiches after the game, which definitely made it a one to remember with Birmingham Southern after a nice W. The things I'll miss the most about the Trinity baseball program, just going out to eat with the fellas after games and practices. Those are some memories that you'll just never forget. Either it be a Sunday Panchitos run with some of the guys, or Chipotle and Whataburger, just chewing the fat and just getting to hang out and just do all the good stuff. I would like to thank my friends and family for everything they've helped me with throughout this point. To my parents, they coached me when I was growing up, and I get to use some of their coaching tactics in today's game. So it's pretty awesome. So thank y'all, and go Tigers.
Top of the fifth inning, and back to the top of the order. It's going to be Capadonna leading off for the Bulldogs. Double in the first inning, a fly out to left in the second. And then Martinez has really just gone straight through TLU since then. Shutting down the Bulldogs the last few innings. And Capadonna is going to put this one into the air, into center. Gore, after the initial read on it, changes direction and comes back. And we'll have the out. So that's 3 balls put into air for Capadonna. The double was a fly ball into left field, down their left field line. And then the fly out to left, and then a fly out to center, which will bring up Philippus and the catcher 2 strikeouts looking. Don't usually see that from a catcher very often. They pretty much have a command of the strike zone. Know when to swing the bat, especially somebody batting .352. So we'll see if he can put the bat on the ball here. Third time through the order against Martinez. Starting to wonder whether or not, as Trinity's starting to come around for the third time through the order as well, whether or not these guys now have a good read on these 2 young pitchers.
Martinez showing some emotion right there as he steps off the back of the mound, giving a little bit of a shout after that third offering missed down and away, just a little bit on the outside part of the plate, and basically the exact same spot right there, and that time gets called a strike, and Martinez barking a little bit at the home plate umpire, and I think understandably so. That's a spot that all weekend long, we had seen called as a strike, but now Martinez battling back, and I think that's something that you'd expect out of him. He's a fiery guy up on the mound, and he uses instances like that in his favor to really get himself going.
That one lifted, and going back is McDonald. He stumbles and then couldn't come up with the catch. I think that was really his only move after he fell down out there. And that one will go as I believe it's going to go down as a double for Philippus. And you get another look at it. Just the footing gives way on the track. And that is such a hard position to be in for McDonald. And I think he did everything he could to try to line that up. But I'll say this. If you haven't done that before, if you haven't been down on the ground trying to catch fly balls, go out to a park one day and try it. We used to do that in high school, and it is not easy to catch that ball.
And it's especially difficult for a guy that isn't an everyday player in McDonald. We talked about how that takes shape when you're up standing in the batter's box. But on a night like tonight, the way the conditions are playing here in San Antonio, I think he played that one exactly how you would want him to. The wind blowing out to left, he turns and runs, expecting that one's going to get over his head or it's going to be right there at the fence, and it holds up just a little bit on him. And unfortunately, he loses his footing. But outside of that, a good defensive play by him, and I think you're right. It's the only thing you can really afford to do once you're on the ground.
That one smokes back up the middle, and Gore is going to get this one off of a hop. The throw coming into the plate. There will be a play at the plate, and Pettit missed him. Just out of the reach of the tag, and you had the same view we did as that video feed coming through, and you'll get another look at it. Philippus touches the bag at third. The swipe tag, I mean, he might have gotten him on the arm if he did, but it looked initially, seeing it live, that he missed him, and no complaint here from Pettit, so I'm going to guess that he feels the same way. And once again, I've called him a Tiger killer early on because I feel like every time we've played TLU here, especially at Trinity, Randy Huerta just comes up with clutch hit after clutch hit, and he's done it tonight. 2 for 3, and both of his hits have produced RBIs.
Yeah, just a really, really good swing right there. You think back early in the season, the way this defense played, there were some errors that they made, both in the infield and in the outfield. Understandable at that point. And they really come back to hurt them at that point in the year. It's an understandable mistake by McDonald out there in left field. Again, I think we assume that he played that one as anyone really should, considering the conditions here in San Antonio. But when mistakes happen, it seems like things almost always come back to hurt you in some form or fashion. That's exactly what happened right there. All you can do on that play is tip your hat to Ezra Gore out there in center field, who made a really strong throw. But again, you consider the conditions here. You have to imagine that the wind taking that ball just a little bit as Jimenez singles down the line, that one staying fair, but winding up all the way in the corner. And that one will score Huerta from second base, and now the Bulldogs have pulled ahead by 2 runs here in the top of the 5th.
Yeah, it's technically double, single, double, because they're going to give Huerta, advancing on the throw home, his position at second base. But realistically, that's now 3 consecutive hard-hit balls against Martinez. I did mention, third time through the order, where was TLU going to be? It looks like they are now fully seeing Martinez, and this will be it for him tonight as Coach Smith comes out. I mean, he pitched fantastic through 4, especially, keeping the ball down and going from there. But as he comes back in and he's facing guys for the third time, as Alec Ben will be the pitcher here when we return. If you don't have that pinpoint precision there at the end, TLU is a great hitting team. They're going to make you pay. And 3 consecutive base hits, I think we've seen it. Like you said, unfortunate for McDonald to be in that situation that, the footing gave way on him and everything else, because otherwise you're looking at 2 outs with nobody on and maybe a base hit, maybe not, depending on how Martinez is able to approach. But
I think that's the conditional that you can always speak about the game with. You go back to last inning for Longshore, right before Holloway drives one out of here to left field, there was that pitch that looked like it could have caught a little bit of the bottom of the strike zone. The same thing can be said for Martinez in that at-bat against Philippus. A couple of pitches that were right around the zone, some that had been called strikes, go against him. Count goes full. That one's driven out to left field. It finds the ground, and now the Bulldogs find themselves with a 2-run lead, but it goes both ways. And as you mentioned already, the game almost always finds a way to really even itself out.
As Alex Ben takes his warm-up pitches. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. I mean, you can't come to this series expecting TLU not to hit. So at some point they will. And then it's just a matter of how do you react, Because offensively, I think if you're impartial looking at this, if you're just a fan of baseball tuning in, you're probably looking at this going like, well, it's very likely Trinity is going to start hitting as well. And, what was a 1-1 game and a 2-2 game and now a 4-2 game, and even if TLU attacks more on here in the 5th, you could look at this and say, like, yeah, this still has a very D3 potential of becoming a 12-11 game as the hitters start to come up and get hot. Not necessarily because the pitching's bad, but because there is so much good hitting in this ball field tonight that, like, guys are going to start to swing the bat pretty well.
And I think that really raises the question, headed into the bottom of the 5th inning, do we see Longshore again? Now with a 2-run lead, one that's ballooned. Obviously it's not monumental, but the way that he's pitched, the way that they have other guys in this rotation that have pitched really, really well this season, obviously, again, we go back to those 4 guys. You have a couple of starters, right? You have Birch last night, you have Longshore, but you have guys that I'm sure you trust in situations like this to come in out of the bullpen and be shut down, especially when, as we mentioned, both of these batting orders, are facing these starting pitchers for the 3rd time on the evening.
That one into center, and you got a good view right there as Jimenez is going to take an extra 90, and that's a huge play. And I know Ben wants to keep him close here. But Jimenez was back easily, even if that's on target. He's back in easily on that one. And now you've got a runner, a sac fly away from scoring to make it a 3-run game. Just kind of wonder at times if, and that one's lifted into the air, Gore will get underneath it. And instead of there being a runner at 3rd and 2 outs, that run now comes across and scores. It's 5-2. And I'm not going to fault somebody for trying to make a play. But I think at some point as you come in relief, you've got to be situational baseball aware of, hey, yes, we want to keep him close, but we also don't want to make that mistake and have a runner now 90 feet away on a sac fly, when if we get a sac fly, runner's at 3rd with 2 outs, and if we can get one more out after that, then we're out of the inning. It's 4-2. And that run will be charged to Martinez, and that will close the day for him as he's given up all 5 runs here through 5. And for him, it was 4 1/3.
I think you're absolutely right. You want to keep a guy honest, but you look at Jimenez, who has 11 stolen bases on the year, and you say he's not Huerta, who has 32, coming into this weekend series, the Division III leader in the category, and you have 2 other guys that separate those. So you want to keep Jimenez honest right there, but it seems like you're getting a little bit overzealous in that
Yep.
situation, trying to gun him down at second base, maybe thinking about the fact that it happened on the base path last night, but it's just something that doesn't happen that frequently.
Ground out and a single for Sanchez. Ground out was the short, single back up the middle, back in the second and fourth innings. And now he's got the count run full. We'll see if Ben can shut the door here on TOU. But he will not be able to get the payoff pitch across for a strike. The breaking ball missing. And there's one aboard for Vasquez. Vasquez still officially looking for an at-bat. His 2 plate appearances, a walk and a sacrifice bunt. He's not going to be able to get the sac bunt here, so presumably he'll have an at-bat by the time he leaves this at-bat, unless he walks or gets hit by a pitch again. Former Bronco batting .331. Throw over to first. And you can hear the TOU dugout getting a little bit more confident as this lead now stretched to 3. I think that's also one of the things that makes for a really good rivalry is when, you get a 1-run lead on a team, and you're not chirping just yet, because you know that across the other side of that dugout is a very good team that's easy to strike back. But as you stretch that lead out, then you build up a little bit more confidence in yourself and your teammates, and you see if you can start to get that momentum rolling on your side. It's Ben ahead 1-2. That one just misses.
But I think it does beg the question, at what point do you really truly become confident in this series? It is only a 5-2 game still,
Yep,
with a lot of baseball left to be played.
and there's going to be a rundown and throwing behind the runner, which was his only move before he balked. And Sanchez breaking on the movement. He'll be at second.
But a 3-run game, as we talked about, that's exactly what it was in the first inning yesterday before the Tigers came back and took the lead in that same frame. But before they can really worry about that, have to get out of this inning right here. Had a nice opportunity already, 2 outs, runner on first base, but all of a sudden he moves over and it's a full count.
That'll be lifted, but we have to hold our breath with every fly ball in this series. That one hangs up and will be a fly out for Vasquez to Ezra Gore, and we'll touch on that. We'll see what Trinity comes back to the plate with when we return. But yeah, as you said, just a 3-run game. Trinity's been down by 3 already in this game or in this series, and then they went on 14 unanswered. So we'll see what the Tigers have in store for TLU. We'll see if Longshore's back out there when we return. It'll be 9-1-2 here for Trinity against Zach Longshore, who is still back out there for the fifth. He's done a good job. He's held Trinity to 3 for 14 hitting. Tiger batters only hitting .214 against him. Montreza, first pitch swinging this one into the right field gap. And coming up, making the catch is going to be Blade Strelsick on the diving attempt. And we'll get another look at this. Laying out right in front of him. Doesn't get much better than that. Stealing the hit away from Montreza, and now the Tigers, similar to where TOU was at the top of the inning, third time through the order as Metz comes up. He's officially 0 for 0, 2 walks. He's seen 10 pitches so far, so see what Longshore has. See if we can get 2 strikes across for Metz. First one cut across the plate in for a strike. That's a pitch that has not been given often, but it has been given once or twice in this game. But we've seen some that were a little bit more over the plate that weren't called for strikes. That being said, I feel as home plate ump tonight has actually done a pretty good job. I mean, he's missed, from our opinion, and it's just our opinion, he's missed some spots per at-bats. But we haven't seen a situation where we feel like he's missed the spots perpetually for one at-bat or change the course of an at-bat. And Metz will fly out to left, and Capadonia will make it for out number 2. That one just off the edge of the bat for Metz.
I think you're right about the fact that it hasn't changed the course of any at-bats. Hitters across both teams have found a way to adjust, a way to put the ball in play with solid, hard contact, and that's exactly what has happened already a couple of times this inning. You know, the crack of the bat sounding a little bit hollow for MJ Metz on that last swing. So not as hard hit as we've seen in previous at-bats, but still well struck, unfortunately for him, just directly at Capadona out there in left field. And you go back to Montreza, well placed in the outfield, but a spectacular play by Strelsick, that diving effort. I think most impressively, the fact that he was able to hold on to the baseball when he came back down and hit the ground.
As Harris comes up 0 for 2. I will say, the one at-bat that his balls and strikes, going back to the umpire, might be the Holloway home run, because that was a 2-2 pitch that could have been called for strike 3, and then and then Holloway homers on the next pitch. Other than that, I think a lot of it also has to do with the fact that Longshore has just looked fantastic tonight. I mean, he scattered 3 hits throughout this game. He's given up 2 runs, one of them on the home run, the other one on a ground out after a leadoff walk. Metz was able to come around on a wild pitch and a stolen base of third, then scored on Ezra Gore's ground out. And that's how Trinity's got their 2 runs and 3 hits. Meanwhile, on the other side of it, TOU now up to 5 runs on 8 hits. And that is Gore stepping in, the aforementioned RBI man for the Tigers. Sitting at 346 as he's 0 for 2 today. And that one missing away for ball 1.
And for Longshore, I think the biggest thing is just the fact that he's kept the hits down. Just 3 now through 4 2/3 as Gore sends that one through the left side. That'll add to the Tiger tally for the evening. That'll be the 4th base knock here tonight. But you look, have been 4 walks issued, something that we've talked about across this staff, has been really kept in check, but across 2 evenings, it's a number that's been a little bit elevated. It's something that got them in trouble last night when you pair that with the home runs that were hit, another statistical category that they had kept down before coming into this weekend series. But 2 numbers that have jumped a little bit. Now you circle this evening the walks. It's just a matter of time, it feels like, before the hits start to come and those walks start to hurt this Bulldog pitching staff.
Yeah, 4 hits, 4 walks. And as you mentioned, top half of the inning, it's just a 3-run lead, and now you've got 2 on for Brian Schaub. That lead could evaporate very, very quickly. As the mound visit's going to get broken up here. I would imagine that TLU's got activity in their bullpen and probably had it coming into this inning. Probably seeing what happened on the flip side for Martinez, just getting something ready to go. And, I don't blame him for leaving Longshore out. See what he can do, because the only person that's really hit him today has been Holloway. He's 2 for 2. Everybody else was, 1 for 12 coming into this inning. And so Gore, just the 3rd batter to get a base hit for the Tigers. So, that was a day after everybody hit, and Schaub trying to tie the game with that swing comes up empty, and it's 0-1.
Yeah, and obviously Holloway has done the most damage and just 2 hits outside of his performance on the evening. But Schaub is someone in his first at-bat of the evening, put the ball in play and hit it really, really hard. Unfortunately for him, just directly at Huerta, playing over there at third base, a ball that the defender was able to keep in front of himself, deliver a strong throw to retire Schaub in the final out of that inning. But a guy that has already swung it well here this evening and has swung it well this series, as well as he homered in the game last night.
And he has been heavy with the power bat as of late. And that will go. That one left up in the count. Count now 2-1.
Yeah, a little bit of a conversation between Longshore and the home plate umpire right there as to where that one missed. I think there's been a couple of pitches up in the zone, really over the heart of the plate horizontally, but just a little bit too high above the belt. That one may be more close to the strike zone.
And now 3-1. Yeah, I mean, personally, I thought that was a pretty good pitch. Now I will. Schaub is in the top 5 nationally in walks. He's got a great eye. He's not going to really argue with him, but he may have also just not liked the pitch to swing at it and let it go by, and then was just happy with the call. Now when it be fouled off, the count runs full.
I think that's one of the things that Schaub does the best, is he fouls that one off right there. He's either going to swing at pitches in the strike zone, put them in play, foul them off when they're on the outside part of the plate, or he's going to take pitches. He doesn't strike out looking very frequently. And swings like that one right there allow himself to really capitalize on mistakes.
And that one will get down into the gap. Cutting it off quickly is Capadonna. But Ezra Gore is going to slide it into home and make it a 5-4 game. It's a 2 RBI double for Brian Schaub.
It's exactly what happens in this at-bat. A pitch away on the outside part of the plate that he fouls off allows him to see another pitch, maybe down in the zone, but more so over the heart of the plate, and he does exactly what he wants with it, pulling it into the gap in left field. And Gore, just as he did yesterday, shows his speed on the base paths, coming all the way around to score from first base. Really, really great job in this situation. 2 outs on the board, recognizing that, going on first movement, and hustling all the way through.
Yeah, and that full count helping Trinity. There are 2 outs in the inning. So the runners were off on the pitch, but still, you mentioned, I mean, that is a scored run. That's a 2 RBI double instead of just an RBI double, because that's Ezra Gore on first. And that's somebody who, like Huerta or, half of the TLU lineup, just has a lot of speed. We called the softball game against St. Thomas the other day, and St. Thomas softball is just absolutely crazy with their speed. They could lay down bunts and get on base. And so when you've got speed and you can work it, and then you can mix it in with some power, as Brian Schaub comes up and just hits one into the gap, even when Capadonna runs over there and backhands that ball on the bounce and gets it in immediately because he's a left-handed throwing left fielder, you're still able to easily get into second for your double and still score 2 runs. And as we mentioned, what point do you feel confident? What point is the lead safe? Where do you feel this series is headed? Trinity obviously wants to win this game, but they're also in a situation where they won yesterday. This isn't the must-win game that it is for TLU. And now TLU, as Brendan Beard comes in,
I think maybe this is the point where you feel a little bit more confident. Even though that lead gets cut from 3-1, you look at these numbers, 3-0 on the year at 1.85 ERA, probably the biggest thing that you circle, through a pretty hefty amount of innings for someone that's pretty exclusively coming in out of the bullpen. Beard, someone that's made 9 appearances on the year, but only in this sort of situation hasn't appeared or hasn't started any games for the Bulldogs this season. That 1.85 ERA, those 24 innings pitched, similar to the other guys in the rotation that we've seen, 24 strikeouts. He's kept his walk numbers down. He's kept his home run numbers down. But the 2 guys that we've talked about of those 4 in this rotation, they've had some anomalies this weekend, getting hit, giving up runs. So we'll see if Beard will be able to withstand this Tiger offense here this weekend.
And looking at who's up to bat now as Christian Holloway steps in, 2 for 2 on the day. That might have been Longshore's last batter with Brian Schaub anyway, regardless. If he gets a strikeout, maybe he's not coming back out to face Holloway to start the inning. Holloway rips this one down the left field line. It's fair ball. And Schaub's going to score easily to tie the game. And much like Martinez, that run's going to get tagged to Longshore. And I think both of those young pitchers had fantastic games until they got to the 5th. They both give up 3 runs, including an inherited runner scored. And now we're back to a tie game. Trinity has equaled TLU at every spot. TLU scored 1 in the 1st. TLU matched it. 1 in the 4th. It was 2-2 coming into the 5th. It was 5-2 when Trinity came to bat. Now it's 5-5. Pettit with a runner on second, 2 down. Line out to right and fouled out to post over at first in his last at bat.
But what about the night that Christian Holloway is having? I'm not sure we'll have the opportunity to talk about it to the extent that it deserves, but you see the lineup before the game this evening, you probably more than anything highlight the fact that Nathan Brolick comes out after a 3-hit performance last night.
Coming off Player of the Week.
Exactly.
Hitter of the Week status. He goes 3 for 5 last night, and the coaching staff says, no, we're going to go with Holloway, who's, 3 for 3, home run, RBI double, single. Holloway's now a triple away from the cycle.
Exactly. You talk about 5 guys being the average that a team has, 5 really solid hitters at the plate. You talk about 9 guys. You talk about 12 guys for this Trinity offense. Holloway, just a plug-and-play guy, a guy that has the perfect approach, one that I think has really come along as the season's developed. We talked about it at the beginning of the year, trying to go the other way pretty consistently. Unfortunately for him, just some soft contact in the infield, but he's really stayed behind the baseball better. His timing's been on point, and he's just driven it and barreled the baseball all across the field since probably the midway point this season. And much like Nathan Brolick, he's been a guy that has come along halfway through the year, but has been just as valuable as anyone else that is an everyday player for this Tiger offense.
It'll be 2 aboard now as Pettit draws the walk. And Evan McDonald with Holloway at second and Pettit at first. The inning continues on now for Trinity. As we mentioned, I mean, we felt like maybe the scoring would increase, not necessarily because the pitching went down, but because hitters were going to start to make good, solid, hard contact, and that's what we're starting to see. That one's going to be left outside, and McDonald starts off with a 1-0 count. Donald 1 for 1 and a walk. Single through the left side, his last at bat.
Did they get what you needed?
Yes, thanks. A great pitch here from Beard. Smokes that one past McDonald.
I think that's exactly what you expect, probably exactly what you need in this situation right here, but not what he's opted to do to this point. I don't have the roster in front of me at the moment, but based on this shot and camera angles we have, looks to be a taller, lankier right-hander on the mound. There's very few hitters in this Tiger lineup that you're just going to blow fastballs by, but that's exactly what he did to McDonald right there. And especially when you consider Longshore at about 5'11", 6 foot, throwing as a lefty, there's going to be a tick up in velocity right here, and I think that's what Beard is showing as he goes back to the fastball over the middle of the plate to get himself back in this at-bat. For McDonald, important to get that foot down early right here, choke up, try and shorten that swing, make sure the hands go straight to the baseball. But a huge, huge pitch right here as you have two runners on base in this full count. Both of them will be in motion.
And Beard with the big strikeout. And that will limit the damage to just 3, and we are still tied. Everything TLU does, Trinity comes right back and matches it. And that is the end of 5. We'll get a senior video here from Joel Thomas, and we'll be back in just a bit.
My favorite memory at Trinity has probably got to be the karaoke we had coming back from Centenary. We battled back after a tough first loss, and there's some standout performances from Jack Breezy and Michael Bokey. I always enjoy seeing a little bit of emotion out of Michael Bokey just to make sure he's a human. What I'll miss the most is definitely playing baseball. I've been playing it my whole life. Hanging it up. I know it's going to be tough, but I've had a great time playing, especially here. Definitely going to miss the guys too. Transferring out here, they're really welcoming. Some of my best friends, I'll keep in touch with them for the rest of my life. And then what I got to say, my message, I want to say thank you to my parents. I know I haven't made it easy on them. I've transferred twice, and they've always supported me in my transferring and finding the college where I want to be. Thank you to my brother, too. It was fun playing out here with them. I love you guys a lot. And then also just to my other family members that have made it out to games. Thank you all.
Top of the 6th inning. It's bottom of the order for TLU. Played Strelzik, who early on in that last inning, as he grounds out, robbed Montreza of a leadoff hit. All of that the Tigers did was with 2 outs after the first two batters were retired by Longshore. And then he runs into trouble. Should get a replay of Strelzik's ground out over to short. Quickly one down here for Alex Ben in the Tigers, but Strelzik made that fantastic diving catch to lead off the inning. And then Metz was retired. And then Trinity was able to just open it up with 2 outs. So now back to the 9 spot here with Dahl, 1 for 2. Had a single back in the second inning, but then grounded out in the 4th. At this point, TLU will take a base runner. And with a 2-0 count, Dahl will be happy to take a walk. That one missing the top of the zone, and it'll be 3-0.
And it's not an area of the lineup that's been incredibly successful. We mentioned it earlier in the broadcast last night, the 6 through 9 hitters for TLU combining for just 1 hit. Dahl already has that this evening. It's the only one they have, but they've been productive in other ways as he draws a walk right there. Vasquez 0 for 1 on the evening, but he's been on base a couple of times, having drawn a walk himself. Behind him, or ahead of him, I should say, Sanchez also drawing a walk. So they've done a better job of getting runners on base for Capadona, for Philippus, for Huerta, and Jimenez. And they've really delivered. The 1 through 4 hitters combining to this point for 6 hits on the evening. As a group, perfect, or not a perfect, but a really, really impressive 6 for 12, hitting .500. But it doesn't matter when the pitcher can't put the ball in the strike zone. It's exactly what Alex Bin is struggling with on the mound right here.
Yeah, 6 pitches, 6 balls. And you talk to Coach Scannell, and he'll tell you, like, if a good team beats me, I'm okay with it. If we beat ourselves because we, issue 10 walks in a game and bring it around everybody without them having to lift the bat off their shoulder, that's something we can control. And so, maybe just a quick reset here for Ben. Fire 1 in there, get the strike, reapproach. Capadonna's hit the ball in the air all 3 at-bats, 2 to left field, including a double back in the first inning off the first pitch. And he'll fly out to center field in his last at-bat. And they'll check over on the runner, and Vonderhaar doing a good job of keeping that one from getting away. I'll throw back over. That one a little bit more traditional, just pitch and catch with Vonderhaar.
And a little bit more warranted as well, as Dahl is the second statistical leader in stolen bases for this Bulldog squad. Certainly don't want him standing at second base with the heart of the lineup due up here in the top of the 6th.
You try to keep that double play possibility alive as well, although Capadonna's hit the ball in the air every time. And it's not going to matter. He's going to walk here. So 9 pitches here to lead off the 6th. 8 of them have not found the strike zone, and to be honest, I don't think any of the balls have even been particularly close. You see far side down the Trinity left field line. There is action in the bullpen. And the second move here from Coach Smith will be all for Alex Ben, as he will be responsible for two aboard with 1 down. Started off well, and the last 9 pitches not going particularly Ben's way, and that will give way to Corey Cater. We'll catch up on the senior in just a bit. Corey Cater, you saw the numbers while he was warming up. The ERA, the whip, not where he wants it to be. The strikeouts per 9, dominant as ever. And maybe some older TLU fans will remember Cater from his freshman year when he was able to come in a game series at TLU and was just absolutely phenomenal. Trinity hoping that can bring back some of that magic here. Injuries over the last few years have slowed the California native, but make no mistake, he has been able to get batters to swing and miss at a very high rate this year. And maybe sometimes what you need is just somebody to come in and throw strikes. Unfortunately, it's a 2-0 count. And Philippus with a double back in the 5th when he struck out looking back in the 1st and 3rd. Now at the count 2-1. 2 aboard. We've got Dahl over at 2nd and Capadonna over at 1st.
But that double coming in the 5th inning, one of the few times that he's put the ball in play here in this series. And it was certainly one that was impacted by the conditions here in San Antonio. So for Cater, important to come right after the catcher of the Bulldogs. It's exactly what he does right there. A breaking ball that's called as a strike. Not something that we've seen called a strike very often, especially up in the zone like that. But all of a sudden, a 2-2 count. To force the catcher to swing the bat right here with runners on 1st and 2nd in the infield. Double play ball certainly in order. It's not needed. And you mentioned the strikeouts per 9 innings. It's exactly what Cater has specialized in, and it's exactly what he's been best at when he's come out of the bullpen. Mentioned some of those numbers on the year that haven't been as favorable for him, especially that whip. He's allowed a lot of hits, but thanks to Brian Yanselson, typically on the broadcast, some math that he did looking at Cater in his entire career, he's been 2 incredibly different pitchers starting games versus coming out of the bullpens. An ERA and starts of closer to that 6 or 7 range, but coming out of the bullpen, keeping it down around the 2 or 3 ERA. And that's the version of him that it looks like we're going to get here tonight. Something that we saw against the University of St. Thomas, the first appearance he made out of the bullpen a couple of weekends ago when he threw 3 innings, struck out 7 batters in that period.
And for the Bulldogs, it's Randy Huerta. A double and a single. Both of them have brought around runs, and Pettit will be quick to that one to keep Dahl at 2nd. The double back in the 1st, the single back in the 5th. The left field and center field, respectively, and they both brought around a run. So 2 RBI on the night now for Huerta. And the base hit, he'll easily have 1 RBI, and depending on what Capadonna gets on his jump, could have 2. But as you mentioned, Cater just looks like he's found that groove after falling behind 2-0. Obligatory wasted pitch. See if Huerta will chase. He does not. Every now and then you'll see a guy sneak one in over the middle of the plate, 0-2, and get away with it. But so the way Huerta has been swinging the bat, would not expect that one to come anywhere close to the plate. And then Cater goes upstairs and away and gets the strikeout. He comes in and strikes out 2 with 2 aboard, and the Tigers escape a jam, and it is still 5-5 as we head to the bottom of the 6th here in San Antonio. We'll be back. Bottom of the sixth, it'll be 8-9-1 for the Tigers. Jack Vonderhaar 0 for 2 on the day. Struck out his last at-bat and takes strike one here. Beard back out there after getting the out. Allowed a hit and a walk. But he struck out Evan McDonald to end the inning and escape the jam. Keep the game tied. And then TLU looked like they might have a shot to go back up ahead top half of this inning. And Corey Cater comes in and slams the door with 2 strikeouts. Bullpen pitching. What both teams needed for this one, and that's going to be a strike 3 right down the middle against Vonderhaar. He's 0 for 3 on the day. That'll bring up Montreza.
Yeah, just a fantastic pitch from Beard right there. I had seen a couple of fastballs from him already in the bottom of the 5th inning when he came in, but they looked like 4-seam fastballs. That one looked to have a little bit more run, arm side. I think Vonderhaar certainly cognizant of that 4-seam fastball. If it had been that 4-seamer, imagine it would have stayed in off the plate, but that one sneaking over to catch just a bit of that inside corner, and absolutely nothing that Vonderhaar could do about it in that instance.
The first pitch of that at-bat, a breaking ball called for a strike. Getting chatter out of the Tiger bullpen. It's the same exact pitch that Cater got called that we were talking about that we hadn't seen called very much, but Montreza has that one called against him as well, and that's 1-1. And he swings at a pitch that would have been a wild pitch. Now 1-2. Every now and then you're just so locked in on where you feel like that pitch is going that once you decide to commit, you cannot pull it back. I feel like Montreza was probably in that mode. And the breaking ball called for strike 3. Yeah, I was going to say that's the best of those 3 upstairs breaking balls that I've seen so far today.
Yeah, I'd certainly agree with you. But even then, the home plate umpire not entirely sure if he wanted to call that one a strike, at least based on his immediate reaction right there.
You might argue that was a touch high coming into the zone, because it definitely finished well in the strike zone. But either way, as I said, that's the best of those Caters, and then the one to start the at-bat. That's the best of the 3, so there's no way it's not going to be called a strike. Metz at the top of the order, 0 for 1 officially, has 2 walks and a line out to left. And Beard laying it all out there for Metz and coming away with the victory just right down the middle of the zone.
And for really the first time this weekend, seeing perhaps the best pitcher-hitter matchup in this series, a guy that's choosing to come right at Metz. First time we've seen that. In previous at-bats, these pitchers trying to pitch down and away to Metz, force him to go the other way with the baseball. He saw a mistake that got made. Ball left up and over the heart of the plate that Metz drove out. And gets a lot of that one, too.
And that'll be right to Dahl in center. And Beard with a quick 1-2-3 inning. And it'll be the heart of the order for Texas Lutheran when we return. Jimenez, Post, and Sanchez due up here in the 7th. We are tied at 5 after 6.
My favorite memory here at Trinity has to be the dog pile in 2019, my sophomore year, after winning the SCAC tournament. Grinding all season with those guys and finally getting to where we want to be and winning it all. That was definitely my favorite moment. What I'll miss the most about being here is definitely just the guys, the fellas, my brothers for life. We spend every day out here. I see these guys and when I see my own family throughout the year, and so really grown close, and definitely miss that. But we'll stay in touch, and I look forward to that. And I definitely just want to give a shout out to my parents, my sister, Chris, Becky, and Claire, for driving me to countless summer ball tournaments, showcases, high school games. I mean, you name it, years and years of support and love and care. Because I wouldn't be here without them. So thank you guys very much. Love you guys very much.
And after a big inning there from Brendan Beard, it'll be Corey Cater back out here for the Tigers. And I say big because I think if Trinity was able to put up any type of offense in that inning, it could have really sent Texas Lutheran maybe into a spiral after they gave up the lead in the fifth inning. And then Cater comes in and strikes out 2 with 2 aboard in the sixth. Just all the momentum that TOU was trying to get going. You know, it's kind of like getting stuck in the mud and just having your wheels spin after a while because you feel like you're making some progress and then all of a sudden you're going nowhere. You're not expanding your lead and you think you should be up 3. That fell apart. You should be back up again because you had runners in primary spot with only 1 out. That fell apart. And if they would have given up any type of runs or offense to Trinity, I feel like maybe that could have sparked a big-time Trinity moment. But as it is, Beard comes in and just absolutely keeps this one deadlocked at 5. And kind of talked about this. I mean, without a doubt, these are the 2 biggest rivals for each other. Especially over the last 5 to 10 years. And they're 11-11 in their last 22 SCAT games in regular season play against each other. And really, I mean, it's just 2 teams that are almost equal. I mean, Trinity goes to the College World Series in 2015 and 2016. Texas Lutheran goes in 2018. Texas Lutheran makes the finals. They lose to UT Tyler, who was already on the verge of transitioning to Division II at that point. It was their last game in Division III. And, it was an in-conference rival, at that point with UT Tyler. And it was a showdown that, TLU with 2 lights-out frontline pitchers, you might have thought that they would have had a great opportunity to win. As Jimenez will lead off with a single into left. He is now 3 for 4. His last one was a double that had an RBI. This one will just put him aboard in the leadoff spot for Tyler Post, Tyler Post is 0 for 3 tonight. But he had an RBI in his sac fly, 0 for 2 tonight. Had an RBI sac fly back in the 5th. And then he had a home run that just didn't leave the ballpark. I don't know any other way to describe it. His shot in the 3rd inning, off the bat, the look of everything. I mean, I wouldn't even faulted the kid for having a bat flip at that point. But it just hung up so far that Brian Schaub at the wall with the glove up, right at the yellow line, able to make the catch. And he's seeing the ball well. So,
yeah, absolutely. Thinking back to that one, I know we talked a little bit in between innings about the wind here in San Antonio, and maybe if that one isn't being affected by it, it's pulled a little bit more down the line, then it leaves the park. But as that one's hit to second base, that double play will be turned in the infield. Harris making the nice flip to Montreza over there at shortstop. He'll make a strong throw on over to Vonderhaar to get Post, who doesn't run incredibly well. And a huge, huge moment right there after Cater went ahead 0-2 in the count to Jimenez, ultimately giving up that single in a full count, falling behind again to Post right there. But now all of a sudden finds himself with 2 outs here in the top of the 7th. And we talk about momentum. As you talked about, these 2 programs, great programs that have been to the College World Series multiple times in the past 5 to 10 years. These are the types of programs that need momentum and need to find ways to carry momentum on things greater than just innings in which they score runs. I think that's something that Texas Lutheran did earlier on today, Longshore specifically when he was on that mound, really cueing in on that double play that they turned defensively and coming out with a strong showing following that. That's another moment right there for Trinity. Not much going right before that, right? A couple of innings ago when they put up that 3 spot, but a huge double play right there when this Bulldog offense had the middle of the order up in the batter's box, but all of a sudden have the opportunity to get the bats back up the plate here in the 7th inning with a chance to take a lead.
As Cater spikes that one down now 2-2. And I mean, this is just turning out to be, in my opinion, one of the more classic ball games between these two teams. I mean, it feels like every year there's one of these games.
Absolutely.
Where it's just like somebody builds up momentum, and you know, if you're a fan sitting there, you're like, it's slipping away from us, and then it comes right back to you, and then you're like 2 innings later, you're like, all right, now we've got it, and we're on a roll, and then it's like, well, here come the opposition, and it's so back and forth. It's so just what is going to happen next. And, you know, I think this rivalry is what has made watching these two teams over the past few years, even if they're not playing each other, just so much better as we hit the middle 7th inning stretch time here at Trinity. Beard's going to be back out there for another one. He's enjoying himself. And why not? Inning and a third, he's only allowed a hit and a walk, and that was all early. He's retired the last 4 hitters, 3 of the 4 by strikeout. And then Cater, on the flip side of it, double play is your best friend. The infield pop to your shortstop is your second best friend. And he had 2 strikeouts in the inning before that, so he's faced the minimum. He's only seen 5 guys come up to the plate against him, and he's gotten all 5 out.
Yeah, and Beard equally as successful, but still both of these guys have yet to work their way all the way through the lineup, and Beard will have his work cut out for him right here against the 2-3-4 hitters. Harris coming up to the plate now, 0-for-2 on the evening, but did reach via the walk in his last at-bat in the 5th. And a couple of guys behind him who have swung it well this evening, Gore and Schaub, each 1-for-3 on the night. And then after that, Christian Holloway just lingering in that on-deck circle, hoping to get the opportunity to swing it here in the bottom of the 7th, hopefully with some runners on ahead of him.
Yeah, and Holloway is that second time around spot for Beard. That's where he started. And so he will, if he gets through this inning, or if he at least faces the next 3 hitters, he will be back around one time through the order. You know, it's the kind of bullpen that both coaches are just absolutely relishing right now, having a guy that you can just, for the time being, go out there and count on. And both pitchers, I think, have done a great job of just pounding the strike zone. They haven't shied away. They've attacked it early. You know, Beard struggled with his first 2 batters faced. Then he settled in really, really well. And he's out ahead in the count 1-2 to Harris, who's 0-for-2. Walked his last time up in the 5th. Hit into a double play back in the 3rd. Struck out looking in the 1st, and it's now a strikeout swinging here in the 7th. And that is 4 of the last 5 hitters retired by strikeout for Beard.
And a really, really nice pitch. Again, we talk about the way he settled into the game, and it's understandable considering the fact that he's thrown that fastball in and around the strike zone, and the touch up in velocity certainly going to make a difference, especially in that first time through the order. But if he continues to go through it, you have to imagine that eventually these Tiger hitters are going to get that timing down, get their foot down, and be able to drive the baseball. We've seen him throw that 2-seamer maybe once or twice since he came into the game, but more often than not, it's been that 4-seam, and it's been a pitch that's not had very much life to it. Not a whole lot of rise on it. It's been pretty flat. So certainly something to continue to monitor as Ezra Gore called as going around. Home plate umpire says he did go. And now
Ezra's asking for the check, and unfortunately, that's not the way it works. If you don't like the call from home plate as a hitter, the catchers get that appeal. But if the home plate umpire says that he saw you go around, that's the end of the story. That went in the dirt. I will say, at first glance, it didn't appear that Ezra went around, but it's not too often you see that. Yeah, but Beer just getting out with those strikes early has been so huge for TLU. Somewhere that missed. The umpire says it was outside. It hit the mitt.
Yeah. And it's
Philip is obviously set up outside, but
again, one of those situations where it's close. I think it's arguably a strike. It's just closer than some pitches that have been called as strikes. Like, how is that one a ball when a pitch that's been below it has already been called a strike this evening?
So maybe one of those balancing out if Gore didn't actually swing. Who knows? It's a full count, one down. Beard looking for his 5th strikeout in 6 batters. Not going to get it as Gore puts this one in play. And that is down, and Gore trying to make it a double, and he's going to be thrown out as he can't get to the bag. And Jimenez, I don't think he fielded it cleanly at first. We'll see if we've got a look at what happened at second. Because the throw came in. It was going to be a close play. He did field it cleanly, and then Ezra trying to pull out his best Javi Baez, almost getting it, but Jimenez doing a great job of staying with it.
I think it's understandable why he goes in a situation like that. He splits the gap out there in right center field. I think right there he's just banking on Dahl in center field coming up with that baseball, having to turn and throw, having to spin as a right-hander out there in center field. But instead, it's Strelzik that cuts that one off, and that plays right in front of his face.
Yeah, and that's the difference between, I'd say, maybe poor base running decision and just aggressive base running mistake. And so that looked to be more of a aggressive base running mistake. But once he committed, he had committed. And once he did, the one thing you don't want to do is see a guy not commit and then go, or commit and then think about it while he's going. He was thinking double the whole time. And it just happened to be, like you said, another great play from Blade Strelzik, who has had multiple defensive gems out there. The diving catch earlier on Montreza, that throw against Gore. He's, if you're not having a day at the plate, he's 0 for 3. But he's making plays out in the outfield, helping his team in a 5-5 game.
Yeah, and if you think about that one, you tell me that a ball's going to get hit into the gap, Dahl's not going to be there, and Strelzik's going to cut it off before it can get to the wall, then I'm thinking there's no shot that Ezra Gore makes it to second base. But even then, that's essentially what happened right there. Gore makes it a really, really close play at second base, forces the defense to perform, forces them to field, throw, execute that play as close to perfect as they can get. So I think you're right. Maybe aggressive base running mistake, but can't necessarily fault him in that scenario right there.
Yeah, it's a full count pitch to Brian Schaub, and the breaking ball from Beard. That will be his 5th strikeout. And we have seen some fantastic bullpen from each team now as Cater and Beard giving us quite the show here the last couple of innings. We are through the 7th, and we will have another senior tribute video, senior moment video, and we'll be back for the 8th in just a bit.
All right, my favorite memory at Trinity has got to be just all the wins we've racked up. Probably most importantly is SCAC championship we got my sophomore year. There's no feeling like that dog pile after a huge tournament win. So that's probably my favorite memory. Something I'll miss the most is just getting a chance to compete with other guys at such a high level in an arena like this every day. It's something you don't get much out of college athletics, so it's definitely something I'm going to miss. And something I could say to my friends and family and everyone who's been supporting me through all these years is thank you guys so much. You've given me everything I need to chase my dream and do what it is I love. So thank you guys. You're the best.
Oh, you got a chance to hear from, if you were watching last night and tonight, and Tiger fan, all 12 of the Tiger baseball seniors. Corey Cater back out for the 8th. That one in the air and through.
And a really nice pitch from Cater right there. What looked to be like a two-seam fastball with a little bit of vertical drop on it as well, in addition to that arm side run. But Vasquez with a really, really nice piece of hitting. That barrel just seeking the middle third of the baseball and able to sneak it through that left side of the infield.
So runner on first, and Strelzik up. Is this the point in the game where you've said, okay, now I've made two defensive great plays. Now do I get my base hit here? Is that how baseball karma usually works out? I guess we'll have to see. But Vasquez with that base hit, runner on. They look to sacrifice him over. First pitch spiked in for ball one.
Based on that conversation right there, I have to imagine it's get this down no matter what.
Yeah. Strelzik at the 8th spot. Dahl coming up. He's 1 for 2 in the 9 spot, and then you flip it back over to the top of the order. I think Trinity right here, if they can trade the runner moving over to second for the out, they should be happy with that. Assuming that you feel comfortable with Cater attacking Dahl. Because if he can come up with a strikeout with a runner on second, you've got 2 outs, runner on second. And that's got to be your mindset here, is that one's going to be rolled over to first. And Vonderhaar is just going to tag Strelzik out midway down the line.
Talked about Cater's increased velocity. Certainly makes it a more difficult task to get the bunt down. But not only a good job by Strelzik to do that, but also to put one down the line, ensure that the runner, Vasquez, moves over to second base. You don't want a situation in which you get a bunt down, but then the infielders are opting to take out the lead runner, and you have no advancement on the base pass whatsoever.
And Strelzik almost retreating back to home, trying to show off his best Javi Baez impersonation. And he gets the job done, moves the runner over to second. Now the big at-bat here for Dahl. He's already behind a strike. He goes around. They're going to check over at the umpire down at second. And I believe he called it a strike. He had the same angle we did on that view. Definitely felt like he went around. And now the 0-2. Presumably the 0-2, and especially with that pitch being so far outside, it must be a strike. Yep, 1-2. Sometimes it's hard to see. The stats people here are all the way down the right field line in a room trying to see what the umpire has called. Sometimes they're no better off than what we see on the video feed. And then we're back here in the Bell Center watching off of a television screen all the camera angles that we have, trying to piece together everything. And we are just awaiting a press box here. And that one lifted into center field. Gore coming in will make the catch, and then as he drifts his way all the way in, I think now realizing there's 2 outs in the inning, or just bringing that one all the way in so that Vasquez has nowhere to run. I was going to say, coming in, charging in from center field, Vasquez was pretty much going to be standing on the bag, going nowhere. Now that takes us back over to the top of the order. Capadona 1 for 3. That was the first pitch he saw all the way back at 7 o'clock. He drove it opposite field down the left field line for a double. This one, he gets underneath it into right field. Schaub looks like he's got it, and he will make the play. And just how the announcers drew it up, right? You allow the sacrifice to put the runner at second. Okay, so you don't necessarily get the strikeout, but you get the fly ball into center field, which works the same.
Exactly.
And
he gets ahead in the count.
And then you get the out to roll us into the middle of the 8th. I can't trust any swings whatsoever. And that'll take us through 7.5. We'll be back in just a bit. Well, for 2 1/3, he's looked fantastic. Why not keep him out there? Brendan Beard, the long relief. You see his updated stats now just down to a 1.69 ERA. Officially through the order once. Holloway had a double against him. He's looked fantastic. Why not?
We've talked already extensively about his fastball, but I think the thing that's brought him the most success this evening, outside of that first at-bat when he was facing Christian Holloway, has been that really tight breaking ball. He's used it, and he's been able to throw it for both a strike, starting it kind of on the inside hands of these right-handed hitters, letting it drift and finish inside the strike zone, but he's also used it as a big wipeout pitch down and all the way out of the zone, but starting right at that bottom away portion of the strike zone, a place that we've seen get called a strike more often than not, some fastball deliveries, some questionable strike calls at times, but ones that have really forced the hitters to adjust to that portion of the plate and swing the bat at. So him being able to start that slider breaking ball, whatever it happens to be on that bottom away portion of the plate, has been incredibly, incredibly useful.
That guy's out there with a duck call.
Try the 2-2 again. And Holloway down on strikes. Had foul tipped the 2-2 pitch before that one. Beard goes right back with a breaking ball and gets the result he wants that time, as that'll bring up Pettit with one down. Pettit walked back in the fifth. It's the second batter that Beard faced. He was also the last batter to reach against Beard. Technically, I guess Gore singled, but he was thrown out second. Now 2-0 to Pettit. Pettit with a couple of home runs to his credit this season. Ahead of count 2-0. Takes up and away for strike one.
I think Beard certainly hitting his spot right there. Middle away with that last offering. I think that's something that Tyler Pettit's been looking for here this evening. His first two at-bats of the day, sending it the opposite direction. I talk about everyone in this lineup, their tendency to use the entire field. Tyler Pettit, another one of those guys who's just stepping into the box looking to put the barrel on the baseball. He'll do it any way he needs to. As he takes that one high for ball four. He's just satisfied in getting on base.
It's back-to-back walks now against Beard for Pettit. And so then I'll bring up McDonald once again. He had that big strikeout in the fifth. And before we get there, we're going to have a mound visit. It's McDonald who struck out. And looks like that's going to be it for Beard. And he will leave responsible for Pettit on first, but somebody in there take two, please.
Take two.
As Beard, you saw the aftermath of the team coming out to greet him, and rightfully so, as they got 2 2/3 innings out of him. He gave up 2 hits. One of them, the runner was thrown out at second. He lost 2 walks, both of them to Pettit. 6 strikeouts. He gives them 11 batters faced over the last couple of innings, including a massive strikeout of Evan McDonald. And as you can see on your screen, we'll have a new right fielder, as the right fielder is in to pitch. And pretty solid numbers for a right fielder out on the mound right there as well. 20 Ks in 14 innings pitched. ERA well under the league average, which is about 5.5. And his ERA sitting in at 3.21. We'll catch up with Strelczyk, the native off the southeast side of town over in East Central, as McDonald will come back to the plate.
Think about Beard, and clearly a phenomenal performance here this evening. Goes 2 2/3 innings out of the bullpen for the Bulldogs. And I think you were beginning to get into the realm of having the conversation as to how far does he go as he hit that 51 pitch mark. We had already mentioned he's only a guy that had come in out of a bullpen. A lot of the appearances that he had made on the season, right around that 2 2/3, 3 innings mark. But in his last time out against St. Thomas, he did go 5 innings. And obviously, with the way that he threw this evening, believable that he would have been incredibly effective, efficient in that one. But certainly a surprise to see him come out in the middle of an inning, perhaps lost his control a little bit against Tyler Pettit, but the success that he had against Evan McDonald the last time they faced, and the way that he had cruised before Pettit, a little bit surprised by the fact that he comes out in this situation right here.
Defensively, it's going to be Capadonna to right field, and Sanchez, the designated hitter, will go into left. McDonald swinging through the 1-1. I think Evan's trying to put us in a save situation going to the 9th.
I think he's more than capable of doing so, but we saw him single through the left side once already today. He's someone that hits the ball really, really hard on a line as that one misses high, and I think that's exactly what he needs to do right here is take whatever he's given, use the entire field, and continue to allow his teammates to step up into the batter's box, something that they've done so incredibly well all season long, and passing the baton, especially once they already have outs on the board.
That one will be well foul, and we'll redo the 2-2 with McDonald. Pettit's not the fastest guy on the team, but for a catcher, he's got incredible speed. I'm not going to say he's going first to home on a ball even hit to the gap, but he can move himself around the base paths pretty well. So if McDonald can push him over, that puts him in a great spot. And that one's called for ball 3.
I think Pettit over there at first base is also a guy that just reads the ball out of the pitcher's hand so well when he's on the base paths. He's only been credited with 2 stolen bases on the season, but it just feels like he's gone over to second base more often than that.
McDonald will give that one a ride, and that is well over the scoreboard in left center. And the Tigers have taken a 7-5 lead here in the bottom of the 8th. Evan McDonald, after striking out in a big situation in the 5th, makes up for it here with a 2-run shot in the 8th inning, and the Tigers lead 7-5.
And a mammoth 2-run shot at that. An absolute no-doubter off the bat. So he moved out of that swing, began to gallop just a couple of steps out of the box. I'm not sure I've seen one travel that far above the scoreboard in my time commentating on these games, Josh. That one cleared the scoreboard easily out there. And he shows the emotion in the dugout. He dons the cowboy hat that we've gotten used to. And another one is going to leave the yard right here as Vonderhaar sends that one towering out over the wall in right field. Back-to-back home runs on back-to-back pitches for the Tigers in the bottom of the 8th.
And the Tigers, who already won Game 1 of this series, looking for the series here with a victory tonight. And Vonderhaar is absolutely excited on that one. And we'll show you the shot here as Tigers have opened it up to an 8-5 lead. Strelsick just leaving this one down, where Vonderhaar's really wanted it all game. Just hadn't really been able to get to it. And that one into the parking lot. Fortunately for any of the cars back there, it bounces back towards the field of play.
But it didn't look, based on that replay, that Evan McDonald was too upset about losing that cowboy hat just a couple of seconds, honestly, after he got the pleasure of putting it on. And it was something that I don't know if I mentioned on the broadcast earlier today, but I know I certainly touched on last night. Montreza, who stands in now, has the 9-hole hitter for the Tigers, homered in the game yesterday, and with it, that meant that all 9 hitters in the batting order yesterday had home runs on the season, and McDonald's edition kind of threw things off. He was the only Tiger in the order tonight that had not homered this season, but he changes things quickly here tonight.
You see, thrilled to be a part of that club. The rest of his teammates thrilled to have him join that club. And Tigers now up 8-5 as the stats will update here in a few. Montreza 0 for 3 on the day, and that is his 3rd strikeout. Make it 0 for 4. Rough go here for Strelczyk. And if TOU is not able to capitalize, it's also going to be a hard luck loss for Beard, who basically came in when TOU needed him to. Almost did everything right. He gave up 2 walks to Pettit, a double to Holloway, a single technically to Gore, but they were able to get the out at that point. It's just one of those things where baseball can be very, very cruel in the way that the rules and the stats are. And if TOU is not able to equal this game at 8 in the top half of the 9th, that is a hard loss for Beard as Strelczyk comes in and gives up back-to-back homers here in the 8th inning.
Yeah, but back-to-back homers here in the 8th. Another off the bat of Christian Holloway earlier on tonight as Metz sends that one over to Vasquez at second base, who will range over, again, making a more difficult play look pretty routine over there as that one's well struck. But 3 home runs tonight, 4 in the competition yesterday. So 7 across 2 games. The Tigers and the power in their bat really coming out to play late in the season.
Yeah, they had 32 coming into this series, and they've essentially at 25% of what they had on the entire season here in the past 2 days.
Yeah, and that's looking at 32 coming into this weekend versus 45 that they had on the campaign, and I think it was 6 more games last season.
Yeah, so a team that was a little bit down in their numbers, but now up to 39. TOU second in the conference for home runs. They came in at 30, so they were only trailing by 2, and Tyler Post's home run in the first inning yesterday made it a gap of 1 for the 2 teams with the most power in the conference. And then Trinity has just extended that lead just a bit. And Cater will be back out there for the 9th as he is now in line for the win.
I know it's something that we talked a little bit about after things shut down here last night. It's the way in which these 2 teams have done this, or used the long ball, I should say. This is a Tiger team that has a number of guys with 3, 4, 5 home runs on the season, but you look across to the other dugout, Jimenez with 14, Post with 7 as of last night. That's 21 of their 31 home runs on the season, so it's a big drop-off after that. Guys that have hit some this season, but not with any frequency.
And if you're a TOU fan, you've got Philippus batting second, Huerta on deck, Jimenez and Post awaiting their chance to bat. Philippus with a double back in the 5th. If they can get 2 aboard, you've got Jimenez and Post. And if you're talking that they've got 67% of their home runs, I don't know if there's anybody you want up in that situation other than maybe those 2 guys. If you can have a couple on trailing by 3, see what you can do to kind of change the tide once again. That one on the 0-2, missing just off the plate. I'd say that call has been pretty much consistent the last few innings. We've seen Trinity take that for a ball. And now Philippus takes that one outside. And you'd expect the catcher to have a pretty good indication that one has been called a ball the last, I'd say, at least 3 or 4 innings on a consistent basis. And the count now 2-2 as the breaking ball misses upstairs. But don't go anywhere yet. This one, I would say, is still in doubt. That one's going to hit Philippus. And from 0-2 to a runner on. And that's why Division III games, in my opinion, are always in doubt.
No, absolutely.
College baseball in general. Baseball games are always in doubt. If you want to watch some fantastic and wild baseball, get yourself ESPN Plus and just watch all of the college baseball that's going on lately. It is insane. You see teams score 8 in the top of the ninth to go up by 12, and then a team bounce right back with 13 runs to walk off. No lead in college baseball, I think, is ever safe.
Yeah, some of the craziest storylines certainly happening at that level. Even here in San Antonio, we think back to back-to-back nights. I know some seniors in those tribute videos that we played on the broadcast this weekend alluded to it. Back-to-back nights in which the Tigers come back from down big in the ninth inning to walk it off here in San Antonio. It just doesn't happen anywhere else.
A couple of years ago, Trinity blew a ninth inning lead against Hardin Simmons, went into the bottom of the ninth, down 3, loaded the bases, and then had a walk-off grand slam. It's such a funny sport, and you've got to battle, you've got to compete to every last out of every last inning. And I know, that's probably what's just percolating through Coach Scannell's mind, and probably anybody out there who's a coach right now is just thinking, just keep fighting. This one's not over. Keep grinding. Get the next out. Trinity's in the position where, hey, if you have to give up a run or 90 feet on a base path to get the out, get 3 outs. I think sometimes, big comebacks are made because people start to overthink the situation sometimes. Right now, you can trade a run for an out and still be okay. I mean, you're even if you give up 3 and get 3 outs, you're going to the bottom of the ninth still tied. So you're not in terrible shape. I mean, you'd be better off, getting the win in the ninth, but at least you're not down going into the bottom half. And there's another walk. And this, I think, is kind of what I was talking about. 2 on now. As Huerta was 2 for 3 on the day, now been on base 3 times. And here comes Dave Smith. And I think this will be DeRoe, who was warming up. We'll see. Maybe give him a little bit more time to warm up. But I think Cater's going to need to get a big out here. And this is one of those situations where if Trinity can exchange an out for the batters moving up 90 feet, you take it. Because if you just pitch to the next 3 batters, those 2 runners on don't hurt you. It's the next 3 batters that hurt you. And so those are the ones you've got to get out. So Jimenez will step up. He's 3 for 4 on the day. You've got nowhere to really put him. You can't put him on because you got Post batting next. And Post has flown out with some pretty big intent the last couple of times.
I think you're right. And the fact that you're not scared of Jimenez in this at-bat right here. Up 3 runs, obviously 2 on, nobody out. It's a big spot for him as he sends it on the ground to the right side. Metz with a heads-up play to go and get the runner right in front of himself. Runner will advance to third, and Jimenez will be safe on the fielder's choice at first base, but it's exactly what you want in a situation right there. Pitch to contact. I think that's the biggest concern, considering the fact that you walk 2 hitters in this inning.
Yep, and, first and third, you've got to get through Post. He's a big fly opportunity here for TLU. I'm not going to discount any of the other hitters. Anybody can pretty much go deep on these rosters. But, you worry about guys that account for 2/3 of your team's home runs. And so still, I would say nowhere to put Post. But I think now with the fact that you're not pitching to Post coming up with the bases loaded, you can pitch more selectively here. Like, you don't have to pitch to contact necessarily against post. I think you can go back as he's doing here. You can throw your pitches down. You can try to hit the bottom of the zone. You can force him into a ground ball situation. And if you throw 4 pitches that don't find the strike zone, okay, fine. Now there's a force at every bag.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right about that. He's a guy that has the big fly potential in his bat, but it's just as likely that he grounds into a double play in the infield as another fastball is spiked. That one will get away. It'll allow the runner, Philippus, to score from third. Jimenez will advance to second base. That's just the one thing that you don't want in that situation. We saw it once in that at-bat, a fastball spiked that Pettit was tremendously able to pick out of the dirt. But just 2 that are really nothing that you expect your catcher to be able to do anything with. He saves one of them. That one just a little bit too much to ask for your defender behind the plate. But still, a 2-run game with only 1 runner on and out here in the top of the 9th already. But it's a situation where why even mess around with post? Already down 3-0, an open bag now.
Yeah, we'll see. They didn't give the intentional pass here, but I would not be surprised if this pitch is unhittable. Although Cater's not going to go easily.
I think a good opportunity, perhaps, to try and find your rhythm, your release point, your timing.